because in Hollywood, remember, kids, it's not important if it's of high quality. Only if it makes money. Say hello to my little friend! You're going to need a bigger boat.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning. The need for speed. Get to the chopper!
Life is like a box of chocolates.
It's stylistically designed to be that way, and you can't undo that, but we can diminish the effects of it.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
This is the Movie Mania podcast.
Oh, here we are, the first ever live stream with a snazzy new intro that Trilby just ruined because he sent me a message during it. And we are here. Trey, how are you, my friend?
I was sitting there waiting for it to end, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Well, I guess this is where I jump in and say, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Movie Mania podcast. I am your host, Sherman Trey White. Joined here as always, the man, the myth, the legend, Bandit, and Trilby. Trilby's not here, but say hello, Bandit. I hope they remember you.
Hello, and double hello for Trilby. I'm sure he'll be here as soon as he figures out his Skype. He'll click it, and he'll just pop into the stream like something that I don't know. I can't think of a metaphor, but how are you, Trey? How are you doing?
I'm excellent. I'm fantastic. How are you doing, Ben? Okay, so
I'm very happy because we actually have people watching the show.
Yeah,
because before when I was getting ready to set up, it just said 3 people waiting, and I thought that's probably just you, me, and Trilby. So hi everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yes, hello. Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man. Whoever said that in the chat. Yeah, that's It's great to be back. I feel like it's like that scene in the trailer where Cap gets to Wakanda and like he shakes Black Panther's hand. I feel like that's the moment we're all right now. We're all being put back together for the Avengers.
That's right.
So in case you guys aren't aware,
tell the audience what you've been doing and why you're doing that. I'll communicate with Trilby and find out what's going on.
Yes, I shall stall. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been quite the 4 months since we have last actually recorded a show. To answer many of the questions, people are wondering, where have we been? What has happened to the podcast? And my answer is going to be a very simple, life, things happen. Sometimes you forget that you have to finish out the last semester of your year at high school, and instead of editing a podcast, you try to do your pre-calculus homework, and that's all I'm going to really say about that. I'm currently in the process of making some short films and putting all that together, one of which probably will be out on my actual channel in the next couple of weeks, which is exciting. And I'm still attempting to stall because Bandit and Trilby are still talking with each other. Fun fact about Infinity War, by the way, which will be the topic of today's show. We will talk about Avengers Infinity War in both non-spoiler and spoilerish detail. And then we will answer you guys' listener questions both on Facebook, Twitter, and perhaps in the comments section down below. Suppose before we get into...
Wow, I figured for listener questions, we just use the chat. People can just ask.
Oh, well, I also didn't know how many people are going to be in the actual chat, so
it was a good backup.
I made posts just in case.
Sure.
Also, and I don't know why I'm going to say this because it's immediately going to backfire in my face. You know what? I was gonna say no spoilers in the chat, but never mind. I looked over and immediately saw one. Try to refrain from spoilers.
Nah, don't worry about it. Spoiler it up. That's why we're doing this on Monday.
Fine. All right.
People haven't seen it over the weekend. That's their problem.
I'm just saying some people can get tickets. Just know that if you are listening to this live, watch out for the chat. There are going to be some.
Holy crap! Someone just sent us $5. Real
what?
Elliot H. I didn't even know we had that option. Why do you hate good movies? Why do you hate good movies, Sherman? Yes! The first super chat is a traitor. Fantastic. Yeah, why do you hate good movies, Trey?
Tell you what, I did.
You're the one person on the face of this planet who doesn't like Avengers Infinity War.
I was going to say, yeah.
Shame.
I don't hate Avengers Infinity War. I just don't think it's very good. I have some issues with it. And I know that I'm going to get berated for it, but we will get more into that as this podcast goes on. And someone just okay. All right. Bandit, how have you been doing while I get some water here? It's getting hot in my room.
I've been good. Just okay. You should be here in a second. Trilby, there we go. Yeah, I've been good. Lots been going on in my life. I've moved house. I got myself a nice new flat. So if the acoustics sound a little weird, that might be the reason why. I'm going to get some of that foam that you stick on the wall, that spiky foam, to sort of like muffle sound and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, things have been great. I know you've been doing writing. I've actually been studying like one of those courses for editing scripts, of correcting spelling mistakes and grammar and all that stuff. So if you need someone to edit your script, Trey, you can get me. I'm finding out wonderful things like the difference between weather spelled W-H-E-T-H-E-R and weather spelled W-E-T-H-E-R. The difference being the first one means weather like alternatives, and the second one means a male ram that has been castrated is called a weather for some reason. So make sure you put that H in, because it can really change the meaning of your sentence.
This is what people tuned in for. They really wanted to know what a castrated animal is spelled like. My God.
Well, let me just say to everyone, if for people who are watching this not live, there will still be timestamps in the description. I'll add them once we're done with everything. Yeah, and for those of you guys in the chat who want to leave questions for the listener questions at the section, maybe just write at the start of your question in like capital letters, question. And that way we can sort of easily see it. And we'll try to keep track of them because, yeah, this is all kind of new to us. So I don't know where Trilby is yet, but doesn't matter. Oh, there he is.
Hello, the man, the myth, the legend.
I'm going to ask you this one time. Where is Gamora? Who is Gamora, and why is Gamora?
That's like the third best joke in the movie, and that's amazing. Oh, man.
And is Footloose still the best movie ever made?
It never was.
That is the correct answer.
Who's your leader? What am I supposed to say, Jesus? I'm sorry, that's the last one.
We're kicking
am I coming through okay?
and taking ass. That was my favorite bit.
Okay. Trilby, tell us how you have been. Welcome back to the show. Tell us what's going on with you.
No, I've been doing good. Because I've not logged onto Skype since the last time we did a podcast, and since then it has updated, meaning that if you don't have a Hotmail or like Microsoft email account, you can't get into your account. And I use Gmail for my Skype, so I couldn't log into that. So I had to use an old Hotmail account that I've not used for about 10 years. So yeah, that was just a random trip to nostalgia. But yeah, I've been doing okay. Mostly just been working my ass off like just over the past few months. But I have missed you guys. I have missed the podcast. It's been too long.
Yes. Yes. It really it's how do I say this without sounding nostalgic? It's like when you meet up with old friends after a long time. You guys just want to chill and talk about a movie that two of you guys probably enjoyed and one didn't. Speaking of that movie, do you guys just kind of want to jump into the movie here, our future presentation, if you will?
I didn't know if you. I mean, are we doing news? That's normally your job, Trey.
Well, I figured we could do news, but I feel like we're gonna have so much to talk about in this movie that we might as well just jump into it. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. What does the chat want? Do you guys want news, or do you want us to just jump right into the movie review?
There is also homework. We could just quickly blitz through some stuff we've watched since it has been a while since we spoke to each other.
We could jump into some homework. I'd love to talk about some movies I've seen recently that are far better than Infinity War. Yes.
Ooh.
I'm gonna write this trade for a while.
So, all right. So which segment are we doing? So I can queue up my news. They're saying they want news. All right. Let me play the intro with this very sophisticated, high-tech manner that I've devised, which is I play it on my phone and hold my phone next to the microphone. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
Okay, there we go.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so I guess there's a couple of news stories I'd like to touch on here. The first one, being us that we are nerds and we also hopefully love change, and seeing that, the idea of, how do I say this without upsetting our live audience? Progression has been a topic of controversy amongst our group here. Star Trek 4 has hired a female director. It'll be the first female director in it'll be the first female director in the franchise's history. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
Note to self: make women are ruining Star Trek. Okay. No, I'm fine with that. You know, I mean, as long as it's like it feels like real Star Trek, and I wonder, yeah, I mean, as long as it feels real Star Trek, but it does seem to be with a lot of the new movies that come out, even though the last one was really good, but it didn't do too well at the box office. And Star Trek, excuse me, Star Trek Discovery, I'm like, this is good, but it just doesn't feel like Star Trek. So, you know, it seems that making things feel like Star Trek seems to be an impossible task, in which case I'd say just go ahead and do whatever you like. Just do whatever works and what people enjoy at movies. Don't really worry so much about making Star Trek anymore. It worked as a TV show, but that time has passed now. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it.
How does our video already have 3 dislikes? I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I was not paying attention. No, Chilby, what do you think?
Yeah, well, the director is S.J. Clarkson, who is a British TV director who's done. She basically has worked her way up from doing a tiny independent film in 2010 called Toast, which I've not seen, but it had Helena Bonham Carter in it. And she's done soap operas in the UK. She's done like procedural dramas before moving up to shows like House, Ugly Betty, Dexter, Orange is the New Black, Jessica Jones. And now she's doing basically a blockbuster film for Paramount. And Paramount are doing this because they need a franchise. They've had terrible box office luck over the past few years. So they need to have this Star Trek film franchise going, which is why, even though the last one didn't do great, it's kind of all they've got. So is this separate to the Quentin Tarantino one, or is she directing and he's writing? I'm not sure if they've clarified that yet.
I believe the story was that the Quentin Tarantino kind of being a development film is still a separate thing, which I'd imagine he's not going to do until after he does the next one with about the Manson family or whatever. So yeah. So I'd imagine that'd be his next film, I guess.
Okay, so
but this is something separate.
Yeah, so these are 2 different Star Trek films that are being made at the same time, roughly. Okay, that's a weird approach.
It's like the like how Star Wars is doing at the Episode 9 trilogy, or the Episode 9 Skywalker stuff, and then Rian Johnson's having his separate kind of spin-off standalone story trilogy. And my guess is that the Star Trek movie, Star Trek 4, will be the Chris Pine, Chris Hemsworth team up that we were promised way back when they were doing Beyond. So I guess that's what this movie is going to be.
Well, I'm guessing that they'll, with a TV director who's really been working, like paying her dues in the industry for the past 20 years, she's going to have the character stuff down, and then they'll have the second unit team and the cinematographer do all the action stuff. And if they can marry those 2 together, this could be good, because we see so many times, like Gareth Edwards and so many other directors, where they make one tiny indie film, and then all of a sudden they get Godzilla, they get Star Wars, they get Guardians of the Galaxy, etc., like things like that. And now that we're actually seeing that happen to a woman, it's kind of refreshing. But either way, the proof will be in the pudding, the most British thing I could ever say. And we'll see how this goes. But I'm optimistic.
Yeah, me too.
Why do you think it is they don't want to bring in William Shatner? Is it just because he's a nutcase, you reckon?
Because he's not very good. Like Leonard Nimoy was a competent director, and he was fairly good at what he did as Commander Spock, and he did other things besides Star Trek. William Shatner, I mean, his one kind of shot at directing the franchise was the one that almost killed it. God forbid Star Trek came out and made things better, but I don't even think 6 is that good, so come at me. But
Could William Shatner direct direct the movie when they spend 5 minutes singing "Row, row, row your boat"?
Yes.
Or was that someone else?
And then they came back at the end of the movie to do it again, and it's like, oh god,
an encore.
Final Frontier.
Well, I suppose Captain
directed by William Shatner. Yeah, that was him.
Yeah. Well, I suppose Captain Kirk is technically dead, but when has that ever stopped them in Star Trek? They can always,
is he
bring back anyone? They can just
I
have Q show up and just go and snap his fingers, and he'll come back to life. So that's not a problem.
No, but see, after Star Trek Into Darkness, they eliminated death from this universe.
Essentially,
so it's all good. Because remember, folks, that's how Star Trek Into Darkness
the magic
ended.
blood.
They cured the universe of death.
The magic blood, the magic face gel from Kingsman, the soul stone or whatever from Infinity. There's it's cures for death everywhere. Just things that really will just re-erase and fix everything that you can ever establish in your universe. Like, oh well, there's just a thing you can fix it now. Oh my god, I'm sorry, I'm getting angry.
Salty.
It's like that gif of the guy from Last Jedi, just salt.
Just going in the chat, and there's so much politics happening in the chat bomb. Jamie Horn says the SJW has ate my last slice of pizza.
That's the
Yeah,
best
I saw
comment
that one.
ever.
Yeah,
That's my favorite.
I feel your
comment so
pain, my
far.
friend.
Yeah, Nathan Snyder says even Elektra was cured of death, so even the MCU is just is not immune from this trope.
Yes.
Yeah, well, this one was actually okay in terms of the SJW stuff. They didn't really do anything. I mean, they did have one moment where Black Panther's sister was like, "Shut up, Bruce Banner! You don't know anything about science." You know, with the vision. But that was like the only bit.
Yes. Because God forbid a woman who grew up with an advanced mind in a super technologically advanced nation would know more than Bruce Banner. God forbid that would happen.
Bruce Banner
That's
just got
true,
black
Can we point out the fact? I know we're not gonna get into Avengers right now, but can we just point out the fact that Mark Ruffalo has stopped acting in these movies? Apparently, like he's just playing Mark Ruffalo. Like, slurred his white. Like, was he having a drinking problem? He slurred halfway through this entire movie. I'm like, what are you saying?
For the very first time ever, I watched Zodiac today, and he's in it with a really weird haircut, and so is Robert Downey Jr. And I'm now convinced Mark Ruffalo doesn't act; he is just him. But it's still interesting to watch.
Well, yeah, he did it and got nominated for an Oscar, and like it's just like why? But Mark Ruffalo is good in movies; he's just not very good in this one. But you know what? Let's just speaking of Avengers, there's another story here, which is the box office of Avengers: Infinity War, and I believe in the U.S. it beat The Force Awakens and did 250 domestically, which is the highest opening weekend of any movie ever. And then worldwide, it opened at about 640 million, which is the highest opening weekend worldwide ever. It beat out Fast and Furious 8, which did like 540. So it did like a whole $100 million more than the last one did. What do you? I mean, is this surprising to anybody? Do you? I do have a question for you. Do you think that this will be potentially the next movie? What do you guys think?
Do you want to start, Bandit?
No, I'm replying to someone in the chat. Sorry.
That is fair. That's cool. But yeah, it was always going to be a close call, but like the final numbers have come in, and it's 257. That's how much it's made. So it's beat the record by almost $10 million. I didn't think the margin would be that wide if it did actually surpass Force Awakens. It was always going to be a coin flip, but it's been 10 years in the making. It's already like outgrossed Justice League worldwide. It is the second highest grossing film of the year, like already after one weekend. I think what clinched it for many audience members was the Guardians of the Galaxy's inclusion, because after you had Age of Ultron, you've already got the novelty of the Avengers coming together. But since you have this really popular franchise with the Guardians, which are films that do really well on Blu-ray and home media and do find a second life after their theatrical run, then once you have them in the trailer meeting Thor, meeting Tony Stark and everyone, then that kind of bumps everything up. And also, they've done a great job at convincing people you have to see it opening weekend to avoid spoilers. Thanos demands your silence and things like that. So, all the hype was there. The dominoes were aligned perfectly. But it was just, I'm still kind of surprised it topped The Force Awakens. And Episode 9, there's no way it's going to top this. And I don't even know if Infinity War Part 2, whatever they call it, will top this either. It's going to be a long time coming till this record's broken, I think.
I don't necessarily think that this money was necessarily earned.
I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted by the chat. I'm sorry.
It's a great chat. You guys are having
there's the hashtag Star-Lord through the universe going around. I love it. That's awesome.
Thanos demands your bubbles. Oh, that's Trilby. This is Film Merch. That's the title right there. Thanos demands your bubbles.
Yes, Thanos demands your bubbles.
Sorry, I better put that screen away. Otherwise, I won't be talking properly. I'm supposed to be talking. And sorry, you guys go ahead.
I don't think that this money may necessarily be. Look, Marvel's done a monumental effort here, and they did something really great. But I just feel like the way this film was marketed, it made end of the universe, end of the story money, and it's not that. And that really bugs me in like on like a fundamental level of like just like that's cheap. And they got and it paid off, you know what I'm saying? Like they're gonna make billions of dollars. This movie's probably gonna hit 2 billion. Just because everyone's trying to see it and not have what they think is the last movie in this kind of big saga ruined, and in reality they're not going to get that. And that I don't know, there's something about that really rubs me the wrong way. I think Marvel kind of made a huge misstep with this one.
Well, they're laughing all the way to the bank.
They really are. They really are.
Sure. Well, should we just jump into the review because we're already kind of talking about it?
Sure,
Well,
let's just jump.
Actually, can we talk about one final thing before we get to it?
Sure.
Yes.
Actually, you
those,
want to
those are the only two stories I had, and I just pulled them off the top of my head. I didn't have any news
What
stories
did you
written
folks
down.
think of the Venom trailer?
Ooh, that's right. I really dug it. I really enjoyed it. I'm so excited for Venom. It looks like a lot of like this fun on the run thriller with a charismatic lead, and it's got the nice kind of double persona thing. And Venom itself looks really cool. The CG looks pretty great on Venom. Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm hesitant on it because once again, it's Sony doing like trying to do a universe building film, and the last time they did that was The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and we don't talk about that film in this dojo. But there's it's weird because the tagline is "Embrace your inner anti-hero," and I'm just thinking, can't you just fully relish a villain movie? Like Suicide Squad, like regardless of whether or not you liked it or not, proved there was an audience for villain movies. And I'm just surprised that Sony haven't thought, okay, let's just have an outright like monstrous monster movie where he is indisputably a bad guy. And maybe if you're going to have any anti-hero, any good aspects of the character, it would be Eddie Brock fighting it, fighting like Jekyll and Hyde in this whole scenario. It doesn't look terrible. It's better than the first trailer because they actually showed something. But I'm still, for me, the jury's still out on this one.
Yeah, well, I watched the trailer, but kind of forgot that I'd seen it. Like now, just bits and pieces are coming back to me. It's like Sony's just kind of really soured me on just anything they have to do. But I mean, Tom Hardy, come on, I want to see what amazing, crazy accent he's going to come up with this time.
Maybe
I'd love to see him revisit his Revenant character again.
Yeah, he's just gruffing around talking about pelts.
God, was a squirrel. I ate
has
that
anyone
son
seen
of a bitch.
Has anyone seen the movie Lock, where he's in a car for 90 minutes?
I've seen bits and pieces. Yeah,
like it's a great film. It's a great performance, but knowing that it's Tom Hardy, there's so much meme-worthy stuff in there. Like half of the conversations he has on the phone is about concrete and telling this guy how to layer and set the concrete because he works in a construction yard.
This chat is vicious.
I know, I love it. That's why I keep getting distracted.
Oh my god!
Sony ruined Peter Rabbit.
I love it.
You guys
love toxicity, though.
You guys are the best. Okay. Also, good kudos to the chat for just completely disagreeing with me on everything I said so far. I'm like, Venom looks
be a fun review.
Venom, I'm excited. Everyone's just like, it looks terrible. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. Oh, it's the
careful,
best.
Trey. They're gonna smell blood. They're gonna come for you.
Yeah, they're already there, man. They're surrounding me. I'm ready. I'm like Catwoman. I'm ready. I can do this.
Sure. Okay.
Speaking of
awesome.
Catwoman,
so let's
jump into Infinity War.
Go ahead. Sorry, I keep interrupting. Go ahead.
No, I'm just like, do you just want to get to the feature presentation, or do you guys still want to do homework?
Yeah, Trilby, you had homework, yeah? You said you want to.
Well, I was just thinking because it's been so long since we've done a podcast, I assume we may have some catching up to do, but we could do that in just a future episode and just dedicate this one entirely to Infinity War.
Have you seen A Quiet Place, Shelby?
No, I'm seeing it tomorrow, but I've seen quite a lot. Like over the past week, I saw Rampage. What else did I see? I've like been to the movies like 7 times this past week, and I can't remember everything I've seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw Rampage. What did I see? I've got the worst memory. Everything's all blending into one. But you may have to come back to me on that one.
Okay. Well, then what we can do is we can make this episode specifically Infinity War based, and then come back at a later time to be determined to do kind of another catch-up episode, kind of a continuation of what our last conversation. All right. Well, and if that is the case, then let us just jump into feature presentation. Bandit, please take it away.
And now, our feature presentation.
Have we ever explained what that bit at the end of the feature presentation is? Because people don't know what that movie's from. It would really kind of sound like something else.
I never thought of it like that, and now I can't unthink it. That's because Matthew McConaughey's pounding noise.
Well, that conversation in that movie talks about like relieving stress. It's, I mean, you know, the connection is
he does talk about that. Yeah. Yeah, that's
It's
from
Wolf
Wolf
of
of
Wall
Wall Street. Because I think the very first movie Mania we did, we were talking about our favorite movie. And for you and me, Trey, it was both of us. We loved Wolf of Wall Street. It was just so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a great movie. Fantastic film. Oh, thank you for the $2
Sorry.
donation, man. Sorry. Anyways, yeah. Sorry. I had a thing planned. I was gonna sing the Avengers theme, and then just kind of jumped in with the McConaughey doing something else.
Well, go ahead. Sing the Avengers.
Oh yeah. We'll just cut it out. Yeah. No.
Yeah, we'll fix it in editing. That's the thing. We can't do that now.
That's what it is. You guys get to see the raw, unedited version of the podcast, which, as you can probably see, is very flustered. So, okay, I'm gonna let you two kind of talk about this film and let the world know what you thought about it. I'm very interested. This is Avengers: Infinity War. 10 years, as the marketing has said, an entire universe once and for all. It's all been leading to this, unless it hasn't. Trilby, what did you think?
I really, really liked it. It's not my favorite MCU film. I don't even think it's my favorite Avengers movie. However, a lot of the film, which I think you're going to agree on, Trey, is going to be determined on how it sticks the landing in Part 2 or in Ant-Man and Wasp and Captain Marvel, whatever's coming out in the next year.
No spoilers. We'll have a spoiler section.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, no spoilers, no spoilers. But it's like, it feels like the Two Towers in the Lord of the Rings films. There's no real beginning, no real end, which is fine. But it's going to be hard to judge this film and its impact on the universe and its ending and the consequences for the characters, depending on how it sticks the landing with Part 2, whatever it ends up being called. However, that being said, as a fun blockbuster time at the movies, 2.5 hours that, in my opinion, flew by. I could have seen another 10 or 15 minutes of it. It was great to see these characters interact. Stand out for me, surprisingly, was Doctor Strange. I loved how he was incorporated in the film, how he is essentially a straight man to all of the Star-Lord, Spider-Man, Iron Man antics happening. I think characters like Black Widow and Captain America were kind of like not thrown under the bus or anything, but it's clear that their moment to shine is going to be in the future, if at all. But it's the pairing of Thor and Rocket Raccoon was inspired.
I could see a whole movie about those three, by the way, about Groot, Rocket, and Thor. I could watch Guardians 3 just to be about those guys, but anyway, sorry.
But
it did occur to me, now that Rocket is on Earth, I want a scene in the next movie of Rocket Raccoon meeting an actual raccoon. They must put that in.
Reshoots right now.
Do that. I want him to meet an actual raccoon and be like, "Hey, brother, how's it going?"
Oh, it's brilliant. But I know it's a cliche when you say, "Oh, the best villain is a villain who thinks they're the hero," but that is actually the case here. I think Thanos may be the best MCU villain to date, like even surpassing Loki and Killmonger, because he's the type of guy who you don't necessarily agree with, but you understand his thought process, and he's so determined to accomplish it. But here's the thing: he has the means to do it. And that is partially terrifying, because it's not just someone who has pie in the sky dreams of aspirations. This is someone who is determined to do something and actually has the willpower and the actual power to see it through to the end. And that is quite scary. And Josh Brolin gives one of the best performances of his career, in my opinion.
Oh, wow. I mean, I think after this, like his acting through that motion capture is probably going to give Andy Serkis a run for his money, because he was so expressive as Thanos. Like, I'd forget that he was a CG character. I was like, wow, that's so good. And just the little muscle twitches in his face when he's like holding back emotion, and the way where he could be like menacing, but like sometimes he'd kill them, but then other times he'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry." It was really interesting.
Spoken at moments as well, and moments of real vulnerability. This is Thanos' movie. You could call this Thanos Infinity War.
Oh yeah,
and
he's
that
the
would
main
be
character.
an appropriate title.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the film, some of the pacing was a little bit off. Like, for example, I think Thor, Groot, and Rocket Raccoon, who split off into a group, we're left hanging on what they're doing for quite a while. It's like quite a long time until we transition to them again. I think they're absent for like 40 minutes of the film, because the cutting and like the pacing from different groups to different groups could have been slightly better. But when you're balancing that many plates, this film is incredibly well put together structurally for the most part, and I kind of despair what a Joss Whedon version of this film would have looked like. Like, I love Joss Whedon's work, but if he would have applied the sensibilities that he did for Avengers and Age of Ultron to this, it might not have worked. It might have been half the movie that it actually turned out to be.
Yeah,
But
I actually
It's
think,
already half a movie, so I mean, what much would that have been?
yeah,
You know?
looking
quarter
back
of
on
the
it,
movie.
Age of Ultron was a big
Good job,
disappointment.
So I'm an Age of Ultron defender, absolutely, but
Yeah, I
it's
quite enjoy that film.
yeah, it's in my opinion, a flawed sequel, but it's a much more ambitious one, so it kind of balances out. But for Infinity War, I had a terrific time with it. It's fun, but the stakes feel real, and the villain's terrific. And even from the opening scene, the stakes are laid out, and just from the opening scene, you know this
Oh,
universe will
yes.
never be the same again.
Yeah.
But I will delve into that later.
And I do think like this is an issue that's sort of come up, and the guys in Red Letter Media mentioned it as well. People are going to say this was all about subverting expectations, but why is it that it worked for Avengers Infinity War, but it didn't work in The Last Jedi?
Because it did. Sorry. No, go ahead.
Yeah, see, I tweeted about this and with a very similar thing, because from where I sit, the issues with Infinity War and The Last Jedi are kind of similar. It wouldn't surprise me if Rian Johnson and the Russo brothers were sharing office space, and when one of them goes to the bathroom, the Russo brothers like peek over to Rian Johnson's desk and like steal a couple of notes, and like there's nothing quite as egregious as the whole Canto Bite sequence.
Yeah.
When it comes to like expectations and plot diversions and things like that. Well, Trey, we'll get to you. We sit down.
That Canto Bite scene in an Avengers movie would have been fun.
Well, that's the difference, isn't it? Like a Canto Bites within Star Wars is like, what is this? Like if someone's flying through space and they land on a windshield in Star Wars, like this isn't Star Wars. But if it happens in a Guardians movie, you're like, oh, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can sort of sum up the difference between like why the subversion of expectations works here but doesn't in Last Jedi is there's a difference between bravery and recklessness. Like what they did in Avengers Infinity War was brave in taking risks. What they did in The Last Jedi was reckless.
Well, I think
that was self-sabotage.
I think one has a more one has a more finality to it, and we'll get to that when I get to what I'm talking about. But Last Jedi definitely said we're going to go in this direction, and we're going to change what people think Star Wars is, and we're going to keep it that way. And people hate that. But with Avengers, it's like we're going to make everything terrible and change this universe, but we're not really going to change the universe. And you know, anyways, you guys keep going.
Well, I think PewDiePie got it right when he's like, hey, if you want to reinvent the franchise of Star Wars, great. Maybe just don't do it right in the middle of a new trilogy.
That's fair. I will give you that. To do it in the middle is a little odd. I will give you that, yes.
Yeah. So, should we jump into spoilers? Or?
Well, I mean, what did you non-spoilery stuff? But
what did you think of the film in general, Bandit?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, this could easily just be me just saying, what about this great bit? What about that great bit?
Yeah.
But of course I can't do that with spoilers. But I just thought it was fantastic. And it was a long movie, but it didn't feel long. Okay. And, you know, I saw it a second time. I was more than happy to see it a second time. I'd probably see it a third time. And I love movies where, oh God, I can't say that because it's spoilers. All right. Yeah. I thought it was good.
So there's two ways I can look at this movie. The first is as a standalone, like in the same way that I judge everything I see, and that is as a film. And if I look at it as a film, it's a fun popcorn flick that has some severe pacing issues, a big problem with tone. And while it has incredible special effects and a really fun villain, and it actually manages to pull out some dramatic stakes and tug at the people's heartstrings and get some very emotional moments, its main issue, and this is a big one when you're telling a story, is that it establishes and sets up so much, but it becomes a movie that doesn't actually finish. And that is a huge, like if I was judging this as a regular movie on its own, I would keep it at like the 7.8 between like 8.5 area that I currently am sitting at when I first walked out of it. But if I'm judging it as what Marvel, I think, led the audience to believe what it was, and that is this huge end-all be-all event, I can't give it that, because it's not that. It's not the be-all end-all event. It's half the be-all end-all event. And I think if you go into this movie knowing that it is a part one of a story, you are going to have a blast. But I also think Marvel knew that if everyone went into this movie knowing it was a part one, that when things went in certain directions, the audience would not feel the emotion that the directors and the studio wanted them to feel. And I think that they knew that part ones, especially after things like Hunger Games and Twilight and all that, that part ones necessarily were not in favor of the best anymore in the media. And so they said, well, actually, let's not do a part one because part ones won't make money. And by marketing it to be the be all end all, they made $650 million opening weekend. And that really, like I said earlier, that really bugs me. The film does have a lot of fun moments, and I did enjoy myself while I was watching it for some of it. But it also really bothers me the way I think Marvel has kind of played this thing and has kind of attempted to pull this thing off, because it just feels disingenuous to me. And
hang on,
even
though,
if you,
yeah. So the main reason you don't like it is because it's a two-parter movie series.
That's my main kind of like, that's why I can't get behind what Marvel was trying to do. If I'm gonna judge it as a movie on its own, it's fine. It doesn't finish per se. It also doesn't set up. It doesn't complete a lot of the story arcs it does set up, and a lot of the humor doesn't work for me. It's got some major tone problems, and despite this huge kind of visual splendor, it does feel hollow. I don't know. There's this weird balancing act of like, do you judge it as a movie as you were supposed to with other movies, or do you have to look at it as this kind of big event? Because when you look at it either, it doesn't really work on either side. At least it doesn't for me. I don't know. I had a lot of issues with this movie, but we can talk about them more in spoilers. If you're just going to watch a fun Marvel movie, you're going to get that, and you may even get some emotional tugs. But I don't know. This is going to sound really self-entitled, but I felt cheated. When the movie cut to credits, I was like, no, I don't buy that. I don't buy it for 1 second. It's like when you go to see Deathly Hallows, like you're watching the Harry Potter trailer for the finale, and it's like, come see Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Psych, you're only getting part one. Come back next year for Battle of Hogwarts. And I'm like, well, you didn't tell me that's what we were getting. You said we were getting Deathly Hallows, not Harry Potter walking in the woods.
Actually, now that you mention it, two-part movies do have a bad history. With the Harry Potter movies, with the Hunger Games movies.
Yeah. But Deathly Hallows Part 1's a great movie because you know it's a part one and you really get the time to sit down with these characters and get to know them more before the big finale happens. And if they had just said, this is the universe setting itself up for the big finale next year, that's fine. And it would have worked for that. It still would have had its tonal issues for sure. But I would have been far more forgiving than if they just would have said Avengers Infinity War. I'm like, well, it's not, is it? It's just Avengers stuff happens. I don't know. I had to, but we can get into spoilers. Unless you guys have anything you want to reply to that, Trilby or Bandit.
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong. No, I'm kidding. Someone just said that in the chat and I couldn't resist.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
So I'm thinking a lot of your issues, Trey, are like it's to do with the semantics. Like you thought you were maybe getting a conclusion, whereas it is definitely a part one, but it's not advertised as a part one. And like, if you were reading interviews or watching the online discussions, then you probably knew that this was originally going to be part one of two. However, if you were just the average moviegoer and the film doesn't have a concrete ending, then that may be a surprise. But I don't really see that as being an issue with the film, because it is a downer film in a way. It is a film about failure, kind of like The Last Jedi. But I just didn't have those issues, to be honest. And even as a part one or as a standalone film, it still really works.
I'm sorry, Shelby. I just like Trey goes out of his way to run over kittens.
That's what I was laughing at too.
Shelby, I'm listening to you. I do see your point.
I just saw that comment too.
I look, I understand that people are like, oh, well, you knew it was part one. I didn't. And maybe it's also because they said it was going to be a two-parter, and then like maybe a year or so after that, they took it back and said it's going to be its own complete film. They're two complete separate films. And that's what they told people. And then you watch the marketing campaign and it says that. And then you watch it and it's not that. And it's like, and I get
it doesn't say part one. And like a lot of people, you're right, a lot of people didn't know that. Like when I went and saw it the second time with all my like regular friends, Like none of them had any clue that it was.
And I feel
part
like
one.
the only reason the dramatic weight that happens in this film works is because people didn't know it was going to be a part one of a story. And I'm like, well, you really, because I feel like that this is going to sound this is getting worse in terms of my side here, but it's like maybe they thought, oh, this dramatic thing is kind of the big thing of the movie. That's kind of all we've got here. We've got the people meeting together, but we've already done that. What we haven't done is a tragedy. So let's just not tell people it's a part one. That way they think we're making an actually sad movie, but don't tell the audience that Avengers 4 is coming out next year. And it's like that feels cheap. That's not right to me personally.
It's an interesting transition that we as an audience and like film and serialized storytelling as a movie format has to evolve and change, because with the MCU, it is just it is one massive long story with different franchises like branching out of it. So it's become meme worthy, but the New Yorker did a review of Avengers Infinity War, and it like the headline, the title is the characters just appear out of nowhere. We don't know where they've come from. And people are saying it's the 19th film in this franchise, or it's a sequel.
That's not my problem.
How are you a critic? But it's like obviously I'm not saying you have that problem, but it's to do with how the consuming of media is changing. In that this is more like, this isn't a season finale. This is the penultimate episode in a way.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, this is the Red Wedding for Game of Thrones, even though there's like 4 or 5 episodes left of the series. I've not watched Game of Thrones, so I don't know how many episodes of the season are after the Red Wedding. I'm just throwing stuff in the air, just hoping it's
well, I get that mentality, Trilby, the Red Wedding analogy, but with the Red Wedding, that's episode 9, and you know that the finale is coming next week, and the finale ends and wraps up the season pretty okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I would attune this more to is the season 5 finale of Game of Thrones, and this is a spoiler, where a certain character dies. I won't ruin it for you, Trilby, because I want you to watch the show. Where a certain character dies out of nowhere, and then they just cut to black because they want you to come back next season. That's I think what I attune this more to, that more of cheap kind of shock value. Let's get the audience in so they can come back and spend another $2 billion watching our movie. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I see what you're saying. I don't agree, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, I don't see what you're saying, Trey. Like, what is wrong with, like, even if this was just a standalone movie?
Yeah.
What's wrong with the way it ended?
I don't have a problem with why does every movie have to end with the good guys going and high-fiving at the end? Why does every movie have to end? Kudos for Tilby to picking up what I'm saying here, but if I may, Bandit, I'm not saying the movie has to have a happy ending. You of all people, Bandit, should know that I'm always a good fan of a good tragic ending. And as I said earlier, if I'm judging this film as what it is, it does some good things, and it has some good character moments. It doesn't necessarily finish. It doesn't complete any of the character arcs that it's set up in this movie. I'm not talking about previous movies, I'm talking about the ones it did in this film. But my problem with the film ending on a cliffhanger, like, look at Empire Strikes Back, right? Are we in spoilers yet? I don't know yet, but
let's just go spoilers right here.
Yeah, okay. Spoiler alert, Death Star Blair, if you want to put that in. There it is.
I'll just put in the chat as well. We are going spoilers.
Yes. Okay, look at Empire Strikes Back. The start of the film and the end of the film, Luke Skywalker is a different person at the start than he was at the end. Han Solo and Princess Leia have gone they've gone through a character arc, and their relationship has evolved into something else. We have learned a beautiful lesson in failure and hubris, and the Empire is on top. The bad guys have won. What are they going to do? We cut to credits. It's a cliffhanger, but it's a complete story. It is its own entity in the Star Wars trilogy. This movie, we set up things with Tony Stark and Pepper Potts that doesn't get resolved. We set up things with Peter Parker that doesn't necessarily get resolved. We establish this rapport with Doctor Strange and Tony Stark that doesn't necessarily get resolved. The only thing that we really get is an understanding of what Thanos is, but we don't necessarily understand what his character is and how that gets resolved. And so it's a bunch of vignettes that are tied together in this really cool story, but it doesn't finish. It's not a movie. It's half a movie. And much like Deathly Hallows Part 1, Harry at the start of Deathly Hallows Part 1 is the same at the end of Deathly Hallows Part 1, because that's part 1 of a story. You see what I'm saying, Bandit? It's not full...
No, I disagree, because I think the difference
you can disagree. I'm just asking if you understand is what I'm
yeah,
saying.
I understand. I think.
That's Bandit's motto. I understand. I think.
I think the difference, though, is like The Last Jedi. The difference is The Last Jedi did. Like, it did the same thing where it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to subvert expectations. We're going to create something new. We're going to, who cares about good and evil? Join me, Rey, and all this. So that's interesting. But then they do a total flip and they go, oh, no, actually, we're just going to do the same old good versus evil thing that we always did. But with this, with Infinity Wars, they actually followed through with it. They actually followed through with the bad guy having his way and fundamentally changing the universe. And yes, you can point out that it's only part one, so they're probably just going to reverse everything back. But as its own movie, that's much better than being bold in The Last Jedi and then chickening out at the last minute. They had the balls to do it.
I thought Last Jedi had a lot of balls in terms of taking a character that we used to deify, like Luke Skywalker, and turn him into this broken man that has lost his faith in the Force, only to gain it back after realizing the importance of things like failure, and then saving the rebellion and dying a peaceful man. I thought it was a pretty ballsy and complete story arc. But I mean, if we're going to defend,
it's reckless.
Jedi,
I wouldn't call it brave, though.
Okay, okay.
Just to like try and get to the bones of your argument a bit more.
Yes.
How would you personally You've got 2.5 hours to do this story, more or less. How would you
have liked it to go?
Like this isn't a case of, oh, if you hate something, why don't you make something better?
I get what you're saying.
Look, I don't mean to attack you, Trey.
No.
It's actually good.
I have been anticipating this conversation that we're having right now for like 2 days.
But that's perfectly balanced, as all discussion should be.
I hope they remember this conversation. Literally, the only thing
it makes a podcast interesting when there's someone who disagrees as well. Because if we're all just like, anyway, sorry, go on.
Actually, sorry to interrupt you, Trey, but like we've just had someone donate $25 into the super chat.
Oh my god!
Sam Heinrich says, "More videos. I love your content. It sucks. YouTube has been kind of terrible for Infinity War. I thought it was good. Just unfortunately, there is no easy fix now. Either most characters come back, leaving it predictable, or not at all. Sucks." So yeah, thank you for putting that into the chat. But yeah, like I said, a lot of it is going to be determined on what happens in Infinity War Part 2, and it'll be interesting, Trey, what your opinions on this film are.
Yes. Thank you, Sam. That's awesome.
Yes, thank you, Sam, very much.
And by the way, we are going to take listener questions at the end. So obviously, anyone who gives money, we're going to read that. But you don't have to give money for us to read your questions. We're still going to do it.
I've never seen $25 before, so I thought that was worth stopping.
It was.
We'll split it all three ways, guys.
Yes, well, that's nice to know. What I will say,
we'll have to fight for it.
To answer,
I'd be like that bit in The Dark Knight where you break the pool cue and go, make it fast.
I'm only burning my half.
Like, but Trilby, you get a third. No,
no, my half. Okay, yes. Sorry, Trey. Yes.
To answer your question, Trilby. I mean, if I could change one thing, like people often get an ultimatum, like if you could change one thing in Star Wars prequels, if I could change one thing with this, I'm not comparing it to the Star Wars prequels, by the way. That was just an example. Don't at me comments. If I could change one thing in this movie, it would be how they chose to present the movie, and I would literally just call it Part 1, and it would fix the event issue with this movie that I had. In terms of like the actual story, I do think that the Russo brothers did a very good job considering the fact that they had to wrangle in so many characters. I don't necessarily think you had to focus on. I get why Vision's in the movie, and I do understand why him and Wanda have. Why you have the scenes with him and Wanda, and you because you have to establish that rapport, and you have to make sure we feel for them when Wanda has to kill him at the end of the film. I just wish their dialogue was written better. I don't know, like it's just like they're here and it's like, I only feel you, Wanda. And I'm like this is like Attack of the Clones, really. This is rough. Like I was sitting here, I'm like, this is rough, guys.
Yeah, but that's one issue with the MCU storytelling, I think, because I'm one of the people who was not the biggest fan of the Winter Soldier, and that's because in the first Avenger, I was not a big fan of. The film's really well made. I just do not buy the relationship between Cap and Bucky because I didn't buy it in the first Avenger movie. I wasn't really bothered about their relationship. And even though I like Scarlet Witch as a character, I don't buy this romance because just because you cut to them and they're in a bedroom and she is not wearing trousers does not equal a romantic relationship that I'm invested in.
Yes, absolutely. And if
when
You're
when
just
there's
prejudiced against robot men. That's your problem.
no, I'm just
Yes.
jealous because he got Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah.
and if I may, I just think that if add a sense of finality to your story. I'm not saying get rid of the cliffhanger. That's fine. If you want to end this movie with the universe being half destroyed and end with Thanos chilling on the farm, that's my favorite shot of the entire movie, is him just sitting on the porch.
Lovely.
Yeah,
I
me
love
too.
that
That's
so
my
much.
favorite bit.
It's so awesome. But you've got to give us more finality with these characters. I get that there are a lot of characters in this movie, but you've got to give us some kind of complete arc here. And I get that Thanos is the main
It's a
character.
cliffhanger, Trey.
But
It's a
cliffhanger does not mean incomplete. Cliffhanger does not mean
And it
incomplete
does.
because it no, it does
I
not. It
think
doesn't
by
have
its nature it means incomplete.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
It doesn't. Well,
Exactly.
then it doesn't.
This
have
is
to.
like you seeing Empire Strikes Back and going, "Oh, I want to. That's not right." Well, how can it end like that? I mean, come on.
Because in Empire Strikes Back, all three main characters go through a change, and they become different people by the end of it, and we care for what happens next because of the change they've gone through.
And
Tony
this
Stark has
all
a change.
500 characters go through a change.
No, they're all the same people. If any, and God forbid Cap gets anything to do in this movie, but that's a part 2 problem. But
He didn't need anything to do. He had a really awesome beard. He outthought Thor with that beard. That was epic. Oh, let me just start naming some of the stuff I loved.
Yes.
I thought, there was an end credit scene.
Yes.
I thought they were still going to do the mid credit scene and then the jokey one at the end. And I thought I knew what the joke was going to be at the end. I thought it was going to be Rocket Raccoon stealing Bucky's mechanical arm. Because remember they set that up where he's like,
Yes.
"Oh, I'll get that off." I thought that was going to be the
the
bit at the end.
I was half expecting him, especially after the way they treated the audience in this movie, and like the way they're like Thanos will return, and the way they
That's
put
a
the sad-
great ending.
Yeah.
The Thanos
way
will
they-
return.
the way they put the sad Avengers music when the title faded away, like all the main characters did. I thought they were just gonna have Captain America walk out and talk about patience again. That's what I would have done, but that's just me. Like they did.
I love that scene when he gets all when he's got like 4 of the gems and he's going for the last one and they're all like running at him and he's just like swatting them away.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
that whole sequence is so good. So good.
This movie has a lot of great moments, and my problems with it, granted, I don't think constitute to. I think they're enough for me to say that I didn't particularly like the movie, but I will say this movie has a lot of great moments in it.
I was a little bit. I think they could have gone a little bit darker with Thor because he's got that bit where he's talking to Racket and he's basically saying how he's lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, he doesn't seem that heartbroken. Like I'd like to see sort of more like stewing rage inside him because remember he's lost like that ship that got blown up at the start. That was the last of the Asgardians because Asgard itself got blown up in Thor Ragnarok. That was the last of the Asgardians. Half of them were killed by Thanos. So I mean he's almost an endangered species at this point.
Yeah.
And I was like, where's the rage? Show me the rage. I mean, we got to see a bit of it when he fought Thanos at the end there. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with you about Thor, but there are a couple of characters who I think maybe could have got a bit more development. Like, there's a shot in the trailer where Bruce Banner and Natasha Romanoff are talking in Wakanda, and there's the Hulkbuster arm on the table. That's not in the movie, and it means the Hulkbuster arm just appears out of nowhere. No idea where they got it from. And also,
in the trailers, they have that same shot where they run forward, but it's the Hulk.
Yes, interesting misdirection.
That's one of the things about Marvel is they deliberately change scenes just for the trailer to avoid spoilers and stuff.
Yeah, that's an interesting
avoid
approach.
spoilers, make more money. The same thing. Whatever.
Yeah, but they mentioned that Bruce,
Mr. Grinch.
they kind of like offhandedly dismiss the Bruce and Natasha romance, and Falcon's like, "Oh, this is really awkward" when they first meet each other. But then it's never established again. And like I said, I could have watched 10 to 15 more minutes of this movie, and that scene that was in the trailer but not in the movie, I think it was. I missed that personally.
Well, but, I was okay with him getting rid of the Bruce and Scarlett Johansson love thing. That I actually wanted to see Bruce continue on his love affair with that warrior chick in Thor Ragnarok,
Valkyrie, who is missing, who is not acknowledged. So I'm assuming she might have escaped because Tessa Thompson is just too awesome an asset to lose at this point.
Well, watching it a second time, like when they're panning across the destruction of at the beginning, there is like a chick who's lying there that does look kind of like her. I was like, is that her? Come on, because in the comic book, like
Not all black people
Hulk
look
married
alike,
her and made a
Dennis.
bunch of Hulk babies. So
There's a
it's
black
like-
woman dead on the floor. It must be Valkyrie.
well, she had the same sort of like haircut and all that, and the face paint and all that.
He's not helping his case.
I'm assuming maybe they spared half of the people on the ship, or she went into an escape pod with Korg to go to New Zealand or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
But I'm hoping she's not dead. I hope Korg is not dead, because that's a death that I don't think I can get over. Everyone
maybe-
else, I
It'd
don't
make me
care.
cry worse than Spider-Man if Korg faded away. He'd be like, "Hey man, I think I'm gonna go, bro." And I'm like, "No, Korg, you stay with us." I'd bawl my eyes out. Oh, that's the worst.
Well, I
thanks for
mean,
making
I
me sad
think-
now.
I
I'm
love
sorry.
how when Thanos killed Loki and he says no resurrections this time,
Yeah.
and he's basically because that's a direct line to the audience, because we're always like, no one ever really dies in these movies. They always come back. They always have
And
death
even-
fake outs.
And even
this time
Thor's
he's
like, "Oh,
not this time.
And even Thor says to Rocket, like, this isn't even the first time my brother's died. He died, then he
Yeah.
came back, and then I found him again."
Well, I know that in part 2 they're probably going to reverse everything back, but I still think that like everyone who got killed, I think they should make it that they can only reverse what Thanos did with the glove. Like everyone he turned to ash. The people who got killed before then, like Gamora and Loki and all that, leave them dead, because there has to be some cost.
Yeah, I think pre-snap of the fingers, they're gone.
Yeah.
That's what I think. It makes the most sense. I was surprised that Heimdall went, but to be honest, I don't really know what I was expecting.
Oh yeah, that's right. He went too. Yeah,
Yeah, because
I forgot about that.
Well, because Idris Elba's been saying recently how he wants a bigger, like, more expanded part in the MCU, and he's like, "Oh, great, we'll kill you off." That's what you get for being in the Dark Tower, Idris Elba. How's Pacific Rim 2 working out for you? Oh, wait.
View of the script is just like, oh, that's too bad. This is a nice gig.
Oh, and the first scene. Ah.
Well, maybe that means that he's now free to be Green Lantern John Stewart in the
Or
DC
James
universe.
Bond. Make him James Bond. You can do it. He's
Yeah,
ready.
you can do that.
Yep. I think he'd make a great Bond. Like, I don't like the Dark Tower, but that showed he is an action star in the making. He's a convincing action star.
I was really frustrated at how much Vision got his ass kicked all the time, because he
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
really formidable in like Captain America: Civil War, and in this, like when the elf guy he's fighting is like, "I thought you were formidable." I was like, "Yeah, so did I." I mean, I understand that he can't phase because he's been speared, but I was like, "Come on, Vision, stop being such a bitch."
He gets stabbed pretty early on.
Toughen
doesn't
up.
he? And that kind
Yeah,
of
man up, Vision.
Robot up, come on.
But I guess remembered the when Scarlet Witch is with Vision during the Battle of Wakanda, and then she comes in and takes down those rolling digging machines. And what's her name from Black Panther says, "What was she doing up there this whole time? Why wasn't she down here?"
yeah.
That's right, yeah. Those Thanos sidekick elf people, they were pretty cool, weren't they?
Mm.
Yes, I could watch that guy, that one Squidward looking guy, torture people all day. But,
Yeah. We're gonna have to put that quote of yours. I could watch people get tortured all day. We'll put that quote of yours next to "Bam, you have been raped." That's your quote.
oh god.
I think the chat might want some context for that.
Oh, and
No
thank you to
context.
the 18 people that
No
have corrected us on who
context.
the names are. Ebony Ma, thank you. It is nice to have the chat that are correcting on the names. That was cool to know. Thank you,
Yeah,
chat.
it's awesome.
Yes,
I love the
yes.
chat.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so one of my favorite moments, one of my favorite things about this movie is that for the first time in a Marvel movie, we got a tease of it with something like Loki in the first Thor or Killmonger. We understand why a Marvel villain is the way they are, and the character of Thanos and the way Thanos is portrayed is fantastic. The decisions he makes and the way he is in the plot baffles me how ridiculous and stupid it is, but Thanos himself as the character I thought was so complex and it's amazing to watch somebody who thinks they are so right be like horrifically wrong. Kind of like the chat thinks about me, but it is nice. Thank you. It is nice.
Trey wants to run over half of the puppies.
No, but it is nice to see that when you break it down, he really is just like a family man that thinks that he's like the dad that thinks the kids are making too much noise outside in his lawn, so he's like kicks them off his lawn and he just goes back and watches TV again.
Sorry, go on.
No. I was rambling. Go ahead.
Do you reckon? Because people talk about his philosophy, and yeah, I think he's exactly right. I mean, I don't agree with with how he goes about it.
Yes.
But I mean, that's absolutely correct.
Okay.
I mean,
I've got a question.
If there's limited resources to go around, I mean, one thing you can do, I guess, is kill half the population.
Or
but
you
as they
could
brought
use
up,
your reality stone to either make the resources double the size. Double the size of the universe. You know what I'm saying? Like
maybe he thought that that's only a temporary fix, because he could use a reality gem, make a whole bunch of food, but then once it's eaten, what do you do after that?
Make more food, man. I don't know.
He might not have the gems then.
There's a spell in Harry Potter that's like you touch something and it multiplies forever. So I don't see why you can't just do that with the reality stone. You can turn guns into bubbles. You don't think to people have talked about maybe he looks at the Infinity Gauntlet as a weapon, but I'm like, a weapon doesn't turn things into bubbles. It makes it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like that's such
maybe he should have
oversight on the behalf of the writers here about his motivation.
His
motivation is different in the comic books.
It's not elaborated.
Yeah, but they couldn't do that in the movie. I mean, they can't have him falling in love with death in the movie.
Well, I mean, they pulled off a lot in this movie that I bought, so I don't see why they couldn't.
Well, see, because with Thanos trying to destroy, like wipe out half of the population, it's not elaborated on, but I kind of interpreted it as he kind of wants to be appreciated and held up as a symbol of good throughout the universe. He wants to kind of make a statement as opposed to fixing something or conjuring more resources. He wants to make a statement to the universe. That's kind of what I interpreted as opposed to, if I just do this, it won't change people. If I just make more resources, they won't change their ways. But if I create a fundamental shift in the universe, that will change things like irreparably.
And it would. I mean, and this is how like killing half the universe would change things in a way that just producing more resources wouldn't. For example, during the bubonic plague, half of Europe was killed by the bubonic plague, but it actually kind of ended up being a good thing in the end, because what happened was,
in Europe we call that Infinity War 0.0.
That's right.
Well, in Europe they call that Tuesday.
But what happened was, because before the plague, like the kings and the nobles, like if you're a blacksmith, they could just make you work for them for pittance because they just force you to. But after the bubonic plague went through, like if you're a blacksmith, there's not many blacksmiths left around. So now the nobles have to compete with each other over who's going to hire you. So it kind of shifted the whole power dynamic and actually kind of helped to create the middle class, because it like lifted up the peasants into the middle class, and it totally changed Europe forever after that. So in that kind of way, in Thanos killing half the universe, not just freeing up resources, it also totally shifts the whole sort of social dynamic of the universe, and it changes it in a way that just creating a whole bunch of extra food wouldn't.
Yeah, well, because if Thanos has created more extra food and resources, then we'd still have like a class system and problem, like the rich would get richer, poor get poorer and stuff. But he makes a point that if half the universe dies, it will not discriminate. Half of rich people, half of poor, half of black, half of white, male, female, half straight down the middle. It won't discriminate. But
he must have like not included his own army in that. Like he wouldn't have killed half his own army.
He must have just said, "Let's make Peter Parker's especially slow." Like I know it doesn't make sense.
Things. That kid who webbed my mouth shut. That kid who webbed my mouth shut and did an Aliens reference and called it a really old movie and made me feel old. Yeah, make his slow.
Let's make his slow and painful. Like, come on. Like,
oh, guys, $5 super chat from Matthew Mann. He says, "How about he says, how about shows like possible and probable remakes? How about shows like possible and probable remakes like Stargate, Babylon 5, Farscape, Firefly / Serenity, and Species? Actually, I would like to see a Species remake.
I saw that earlier, and I'm like, Species sounds kind of fun to do again.
I just want more Firefly. I'm that
Yeah.
guy who never let it go.
I don't trust Joss Whedon to do much these days. I'll be honest with you. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
so
thanks, Matthew, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, we really appreciate everything you guys are doing in the chat there. Let me bring up the idea of the ending here again, because I thought there were some genuinely nice moments in there. Again, if you don't think about it very much, on surface level, there are some nice moments. So I'm still in high school. I'm in the last month of my high school career here, and when I got back today, everyone's kind of talking about the movie, and it's amazing how like one sentence can make everyone in the room go, "Oh man," just go like he's walking to him and say, "I don't feel so good," and everyone just goes, "Oh, stop talking. What's wrong with you?" It's amazing how those like 4 words can make a whole room go sad. But what did you guys think of those deaths specifically? I mean, they know there's not gonna be any actual significance or weight, I suppose. But in the moment, did you guys kind of feel anything?
The one that got me was, out of all of them, Black Panther, because it's entirely how the shot was framed. What's the name of his like bodyguard, like the bald woman? I forget her name.
Or something like that. Oh, I can't pronounce it for the life of me. But something.
Ao? Ao, was it?
I forget. Like there's a K in there, I think. Yes.
Okay, but yeah, it's him. Like he reaches his hand out to pick her up, and because the frame is mostly focused on her, you think she's gonna go. But no, his arm starts going, even though he's not fully in the frame.
Sorry, I was laughing because there's in the comment section, Hitler did nothing wrong. Yes,
I saw that.
We need to add that. So that's I love the internet. I really do. Hitler did nothing wrong.
Here we go. Okay, I think it is what the chat is calling her.
Oh, and also, Yo's Plug message. He said, "Here's the thing, Banner. In a couple of dozen years or more, the population will just breed and regain the numbers. So Thanos' solution is temporary. I think Thanos' plan is dumb AF, unless he puts in a Chinese-style one-child policy, or maybe two-child policy to keep it at replacement rate." See, he's a smart guy, Thanos. I'm sure he planned it through.
I'd just like to point out real quick, Matthew Mann works in Warner Brothers, apparently. What's going on, man? Give us some insight, please. Because how many people over Warner Brothers are on suicide watch? Like, legitimately. How are they doing right now, seeing that Avengers made more than your big end-of-the-year team-up movie in, like, 3 days? Let's just...
Yeah.
Jesus. I'm so sorry, Mr. Mann. I hope you still have a job in 2 weeks. Anyways.
Yeah, but yeah, it was the Black Panther one that got me, because it just completely caught me off guard because of how it was shot and framed. And I thought that she was gonna go, but it was him, and he wasn't even like fully in the frame when it happened. And that it was just incredibly well filmed how they did that one.
Yes.
I was surprised they didn't kill Stark for real. I was genuinely surprised. I was like, why didn't they kill him? Because like we all know, Robert Downey Jr. is not going to be Tony Stark forever. So I was like, you're going to have to kill him off at some point. Could you have found a better time to do it than right now? I don't think so. So I think that was a missed opportunity.
I thought he was going to bite it when he got stabbed.
Yeah,
that was kind of the one moment in the entire movie where I kind of leaped forward in my seat and kind of reached my hand. I was like, oh wait, no, wait. It was the first moment I was like, oh wait, something's actually happening in the movie.
You mean you didn't jump out of your seat when you saw giant Peter Dinklage?
I laughed.
Giant,
you know you did.
I laughed.
You were supposed to protect us. He had his deep voice.
He did the deep voice like 20 minutes after they made a joke about doing deep voices. I don't know if anyone picked up on that, but like they made a whole bit about doing silly deep voices, and then Peter Dinklage shows up 20 minutes later doing
that's right.
Deep voice. I'm like, this movie has no stuff like the. Oh man, that was rough.
The whole Guardians and Thor interaction. Apparently, that dialogue was written by James Gunn, and it shows. It was, just everything with like Drax is like, this is no, you're not a man. This is a man.
That was great. That was great.
Specimen.
Drax is awesome. I love Drax. He's so cool.
I mastered the understanding perfectly.
How long have you been standing there? An hour. An hour.
I'm invisible. I can move so slowly.
Oh, hi, Drax. It was so great. I love that.
Oh, at the end, I was also surprised that Rocket is the only Guardian left.
Yeah,
Like,
Is he?
all of them went. Mantis, Drax, Star-Lord, Groot, Gamora's gone. Well, there's Nebula as well, if she counts, I guess. So Nebula and Rocket are the only Guardians of the Galaxy left.
Yeah. Oh my
I was
god,
kind
I
of
didn't
surprised
realize.
that there was no like half of them going in that one. That the fate really dealt them
well,
a bad
I
hand.
think I don't think it was an accident on the filmmaker's part too, and I do think this was a nice thing to do. Is you now have your hopefully actual finale being focused around the original Avengers, with a few exceptions, of course. You've got the movie, your ending movie, to now that they have officially wiped out who will be essentially the new cast of your MCU. They have this chance to say, okay, we have Cap, we have Tony. I'd imagine that's why they didn't kill off Tony in this movie, by the way, is because they're waiting to do some of the more real deaths, the deaths that we were all expecting, by the way, which I think is kind of fun that everyone was expecting Cap to die and he like doesn't, and he really doesn't. Like, he makes it through everything, and it's really nice to see. And
he
I
doesn't
think
get much to do in this film. Captain America.
he really doesn't. This was very much a Doctor Strange, Tony Stark, Thor movie, which was
Gold-
great because Doctor Strange was so awesome in this movie.
Gold
Yeah.
Ducat did nothing wrong. I understand that reference.
I don't get it.
Sorry, guys, I keep derailing you with the chat. So, what's your guys' take on what was going on with Hulk? Do you think it's Hulk was afraid of Thanos because he got whooped? Do you think that was?
Hulk got cooked.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. It was nice to see the Hulk get bitched by Thanos. That was pretty fun, and I mean, it's something I was expecting because they did it in the comic book, much like a lot of things they do in this movie. But that was nice to see this right at the bat. Oh yeah, we have the Hulk isn't going to work this time. It was a nice callback as well.
Yeah,
in the first movie.
Yeah, because with the Hulk, if you establish that he can't beat this opponent, then when he is in the battlefield at the end, he's kind of redundant. So it's clever that they get that aspect of power scaling out of the way at the beginning, and then they can focus on Bruce being an Avenger on his own, where he's in the Hulkbuster and he's like, "This suit kicked the crap out of the Hulk," and I'm assuming it's because the Hulk is just too scared to face him again, which makes sense. I hope that I was hoping they would have like an existential trippy dream sequence where it's inside Bruce's head and he is talking to the Hulk. They're both on screen at the same time, but he did survive at the end, so there is a possibility we may get that in the second part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And what was I going to say? Oh yes, I was expecting a little bit more explanation as to why Thor's new axe could just cut right through the beam of the Infinity Gauntlet when he had all the stones, and he hit him with like this rainbow light of everything, and he just cut through it with the axe. I was like, how the hell did that happen? Like, I was expecting him to like make some line of like, this was forged in the same time as the gems or something. I don't know. Did you guys find that weird?
Did Thor take a star to the chest?
Yeah, well, no, to his back.
That's
to
dumb.
his spine.
I'm sorry. That's dumb. Okay. All right. So there's no excuse for anything that hurt this man now, right? Because he took a star exploding to the chest. Like, that's. Hold on. I'm sorry.
Well, to be fair, it would have killed him if Stormbreaker hadn't come along. And I liked how the handle is Groot's arm.
That is cool.
I like how Thor just calls him Tree.
Yeah, but he understands Groot because it was
an elective.
The way Groot speaks is taught on Asgard apparently, so that he can speak to him.
Well, it was the first movie in which Thanos really felt like he was a god, where you see the difference between him and other people who are just kind of tough. You know, like he could survive out in space, he could take a star, get hit in the back with a star. It's like, and when he shows up at the battlefield at the end, it's like, oh boy, it's all over. You know, so they really leveled him up, probably because Hulk was leveled down.
Well, and also when the Avengers came together in Age of Ultron, they beat up Ultron they beat him up relatively easily. Like they focused their beams on him for a bit, and then Hulk just bats him out of the frame. So, but then when you get someone like Thanos coming along, it's you kind of do have to hype him up as a big like threat that not even all of the Avengers at this point in time can stop.
Yes, you do get that great moment where Thor sends an axe flying into Thanos' chest, where and then he like pushes it in, and because Thanos' blood is purple, they can do it, and it's not graphic, even though it most definitely is. It's rough. But the whole time,
should have aimed for the head.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I'm like, why didn't he just go for his head? And then Thanos says it. I'm like, well, now I'm predicting the movie before the movie says it, but whatever.
Actually, thanks to Guy Person in the chat, he says, Bandit, the axe was made to be a Thanos killing weapon. That's correct. Yeah. It was. That's probably the reason why. Thanks, mate.
But Nathan Snyder in the chat reminded me of just one of the best interactions of the movie. I am Groot. I'm Steve Rogers.
Steve Rogers.
I am Steve Rogers. I am Steve Rogers. That's Cap. Unfortunately, gets like maybe 6 lines in the movie, but one of them is one of the memeable moments. If the internet has told me already, I am Steve Rogers. It's already a meme, which is nice.
He didn't feel all that. He didn't seem all that sad when his mate Bucky turned to ash.
No,
he's just kind of like, huh?
Yeah, he took at me, and that was about it. And he's like, Thor, where'd he go? Like,
maybe he didn't understand what was happening, because Bucky was the very first person we saw disappear like that.
Well, Tony Stark picked up on what was happening fairly easily, because he definitely rubbed his Peter Parker's ashes all over his face, which I won't lie. And the sea of movie that was not impressing me, that scene definitely ripped my heart out and looked at me with it in its hands. It was that was not easy to watch for me. And I in the back of my head, I knew Spider-Man wasn't actually dead. But it's this prospect of watching this 15-year-old kid so terrified because the concept of death is finally approaching him. And the only thing he can do is hold on to Tony Stark, who can't do anything to stop it. It terrified me, and it made me want to reach out and go, wait, I just wanted to give the poor boy a hug.
Do you think
he didn't make it?
Do you think that that death in air quotes of Spider-Man, do you reckon that's the reason they threw in that weird plot point about he had a dream that they had a kid? Do you reckon that's why they did it? Like, oh, Spider-Man's the son he never had, and now he's dying.
I think it established that Tony Stark is ready to go beyond Iron Man, which I guess he's been ready to go beyond Iron Man for like 5 years. But I think this film really showed that he really does not want to do this per se anymore. He really only does it because, like, even Doctor Strange is like, it's the end of the world. He's like, I don't care. And then Bruce Banner's like, this is a big deal. And then he joins them. But I do think, I don't know. I do think maybe it was to establish a rapport about children, and because this movie is kind of all about fatherhood, which is essentially the kind of growing. There's a great video I just saw from, I forgot the name of the YouTube channel, but he talked about the kind of theming of fatherhood in this movie and how it kind of is the culmination of something that the movies have been building up to for a few years. With like Tony Stark's father and even in Black Panther and Thor with their idea of the killing your fathers and Spider-Man with Peter Parker and Tony Stark, and Guardians, especially with your father being a supervillain. And so I do think the theme of fathers does make its way into this movie and kind of plays it throughout.
What is it, written by David Lindelof or something? Is all these daddy issues in there? Well, I do think as well, like when looking at like who turned to ash at the end and who didn't, I do reckon they probably just sat down and said, okay, between now and part 2, who doesn't have a movie coming out? We can safely get rid of them. So I think that's probably why Black Panther disappeared and Spider-Man disappeared, because they don't have movies between now and
no. It's literally just Ant-Man. It's literally people that weren't in the movie were the people that have movies coming out. It's Ant-Man and it's Captain Marvel, and then it's Avengers 4. Yeah,
I didn't get that reference at the end credit scene.
It took me a hot second, which is nice because that's the first time in a few years, and this is gonna sound really douchey. It was the first time in a few years I'm like, I don't get what's going on, and it's nice to have that feeling again, to get more obscure kind of references towards something. Like 8 seconds after the movie cuts black, I was like, oh wait, Carol Danvers, and so. But yeah, it was nice to see that kind of obscure, very small Easter egg that they were going to give the audience.
And we're getting a new Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer tomorrow.
Yes, because the poster came out, and the poster looks pretty good.
And they even did a 30-second teaser for teasing the trailer for tomorrow, where they get all the cast of Infinity War, and they say everyone had one question: where was Ant-Man? Everyone's asking, where is Ant-Man?
I love how Black Widow's probably Hawkeye. Yeah.
It reminded me of the Simpsons joke. Okay, in Infinity War, every character needs to be looking around saying, "Where's Ant-Man? Where's Gucci?"
Well, the thing with Ant-Man is he could be in every single scene of the movie, and you wouldn't know.
That's what Tom Hiddleston said. He's like, "Well, he could be in a movie."
He's just a dot in the bottom left corner of the screen. It's like, there he is.
But how great was it when Nick Fury went at the end and he nearly went, "Mother."
Yeah, that was a good send-off.
He's going to be the first F-bomb of the Marvel universe, man. I'm waiting for it. It's got to be Cap, right? Like that's got to be Cap's last word, right? Like that's how they kill him, and like Cap's dying, or maybe Tony's holding Cap dying, and Tony drops an F-bomb, and Cap says language, and then Cap dies, and the whole audience just like wets themselves with like just sadness and fear.
Oh, and I know it's a tangent, but Ready Player One has the best F-bomb of
Someone
2018
told me
so
it,
far.
and that sounds pretty cool. I have no interest in seeing the movie whatsoever, but
yeah,
yeah,
the F-bomb is so funny in that
that's
film.
what I hear. I hear it's.
I plan to see it. I have it on my computer. I mean, I'm going to watch it.
And it's definitely not going to chap yet. He won't chap yet. He's going to see it legitimately.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. What do you guys think? You know, we never actually see what the soul gem does. Like it brings people back to life, I assume, but it's the only gem we don't see being used.
Who knows?
I mean, unless that weird, because after he snaps his fingers, you know, he goes into that weird place where he sees little Gamora again.
Yeah.
Maybe the soul gem, maybe it could kind of bring her back in a way for him to view her again or something.
It might be like the resurrection stone, where it gives you the ability to kind of manipulate death in that sense, but kind of only in a hollowness. Like, cause I believe that's what the resurrection. It brings people back, but not really bring them back. It's kind of an empty shell.
Well, it's why people thought that the Soul Stone was going to be on Wakanda, and it was what was in the plants that allowed them to see their ancestors.
Oh, that would have been good.
Red Skull was guarding it.
Oh my god!
What?
Okay, so
I was really happy to see Red Skull again.
Yeah, I clapped once in this movie, and that was it. And
someone in the chat said it wasn't Hugo Weaving, though. It was a different actor.
It was Ross Marquand.
Yeah, from The Walking Dead, which I thought was I didn't notice the voice was different. I didn't notice.
Wait a minute, who from The Walking Dead?
He's an impressionist.
Yeah, Ross Marquand. He plays one of the gay guys in Walking Dead. Aaron, yeah, and
oh,
I don't
really?
know if yeah,
oh,
but
how about that?
Yeah, because Ross is an impressionist and a voice actor, so it makes sense.
Yeah, well, it also makes sense that Hugo Weaving wouldn't get hired again because, you know, he got fired from being Megatron because he was always talking crap about Michael Bay. So he got fired from Megatron. So I'm not surprised he got fired from this as well.
Yeah, did he voice Megatron in The Last Night, or was that someone else?
It was someone else. They brought in someone else.
The guy that voices
Frank Welker.
Yeah, I think it's either been him or someone else for the last couple of movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's why they brought in the new guy, because Hugo Weaving was running his mouth. Stop running your mouth, Hugo Weaving. Stop. Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Yeah, go back to Middle Earth, Elrond.
Yeah.
I got him.
High five. Yeah.
But I think the fact that we didn't really, that the Soul Stone was the only gem we didn't really see what it did fully, that might actually be the key to how they're going to reverse everything in part 2 is the Soul Gem. I think if they didn't show us how that works, it's probably for a reason.
Yeah, I do think it did lead to what is, if it sticks, it leads to what I think is another good point of the film, and that is Gamora's death.
That was
I don't per se know. Gamora's a very intelligent, very smart person. I don't see how she didn't pick up on the fact that Thanos actually felt something for her, because if he didn't love Gamora, he would have treated her exactly how he treated Nebula. He would have just found a way to horrifically and viciously torture her to get the Soul Stone. But instead, he went with her and he spoke with her and he talked to her about the virtue of the life or whatever they talked about in their vague and expositional dialogue. I don't buy that Gamora was stupid enough to not think that Thanos loved her. I don't buy that 1 second.
Well, she did cry when she thought she killed him. So she obviously felt something for him as well.
So my question is, when he's like, "You must sacrifice something you love," and she's like, "Oh, how's it suck? You don't love anything." I'm like, no, he does. My first thought was that she was laughing because he finally has to sacrifice something that he loves. I thought she was laughing and like smiling because he finally gets what he deserves, in the sense of he finally has to destroy something he cares about. Yeah. But it was the opposite, that she thought he didn't love anything. But then why would Of course he loves you. You're smarter than this, honey. I don't know.
I think that was a good plot point, though, that you have to give something you love to get the soul gem, because Red Skull does make a big thing about its immense power. You have to earn it. It's the only gem you have to earn like that, which is why I think it'll be pivotal in the next movie. But because I was thinking when I saw Red Skull, I was like, how come he didn't get the soul gem? And then he says you have to give up something you love, and I was like, right, Red Skull doesn't love anything. That's why he couldn't get it. And then, of course, they did the exact thing with Thanos, and so I thought that was really clever writing.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so I'd like to talk about some of the separate from the story elements of the film and the marketing elements. I'd like to talk about the movie, like the filmmaking of itself. Maybe it's because they were shooting it on the IMAX cameras that they shot Civil War with. I thought it was a very gorgeous looking movie. I thought that Marvel movies have really, Black Panther, of course, does not look great, but I don't know if we've talked about Black Panther on this show. Didn't like that one very much. And Thor didn't. Thor had some cool moments, but this movie really stepped it up and is up there with like Guardians 2 for kind of a really cool and colorful looking Marvel movie. And it's got some really nice shots in there. There's some really great tracking shots, like when Tony Stark first exits the Sanctum Sanctorum in New York, and we kind of get to see the destruction and what kind of hello? Yes. What are you laughing at, Bandit?
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at the chat again.
Okay.
Yeah,
someone says Red Skull would fix Germany.
Oh God! Oh, it is escalating. Oh my!
Trump loves better. Someone's for that. You guys are awesome. We love you guys. So should we head on to list of questions, or should we wrap up?
There's a couple of things I wanted to mention. I think,
sure.
Why are Civil War and Infinity War better Spider-Man movies than the actual Spider-Man movie we got?
It's not, Trilby. Get over it. It's not. Homecoming's a great movie, Trilby.
Oh Homecoming is fine. It is the adequate Spider-Man, not the amazing Spider-Man.
I think it's because, like, let's face it, like when you point to some of the bad Marvel movies, and there have been some bad ones, they're always the solo movies. Whenever the solo movies turn into like mini team up ones, they always end up being
unless
better.
you throw Ragnarok.
So I think that's the formula. Solo movies suck. The more characters in it, the better it gets.
Well, the quintessential Spider-Man moment in Infinity War was when everything was going to shit, half of the Guardians were knocked out, and Spider-Man was falling and trying to catch everyone. That is so Spider-Man, and I loved it. And when he's trying to catch an unconscious Mantis and Drax and everything, that's amazing.
Yeah, you see that Tobey Maguire, you couldn't save what's the name with your stupid little web hand, but this one did. He saved everyone in space.
Do any of you guys watch Aldo Jones, who does these weird trailers? Like, he takes a popular Marvel or comic book trailer and he photoshops and After Effects it like to an incredible degree to make weird, funny trailers. And Peter Parker, Tobey Maguire, is like always in these trailers. And there's a bit where he like photoshops Peter Parker coming in and throwing Iron Man away or something, and then it says like Savage Parker or something, Savage Maguire. So but yeah, Aldo Jones's weird trailers. You got to check those out.
Hey, in the chat,
I think I saw the Star Wars one. Yeah,
guys, in the chat, someone said Bill Cosby for president.
No,
bandits.
Back on topic. The Iron.
You have been ready.
I liked the Iron Spider suit.
Yeah,
Maguire.
Sorry,
that's it. Yeah.
I'll stop derailing everything.
Yeah, the chat's corrected me. It was Bully Maguire.
Bully Maguire. Did either of you see this on the IMAX screen, by the way, if I may ask, before we jump into this?
No, I'm a peasant and I saw it in 2D.
Okay. No, well, there's IMAX 2D showings. You don't have to see it in IMAX and 3D, at least here in the States. They shot the film, you guys don't know, entirely in IMAX cameras, and I think it's, and this is just me, this is going to be nerding out for a bit here. It is nice to get that kind of expansive open frame. So if there are people listening to this who have not seen it, I can say that it is worth the extra maybe $2, $3, $4 it is to shelve out and go see this on an IMAX screen, because they shot the whole film that way. And you know, when the frame opens up and expands like that, it's not just a cheap gimmick. It really does provide a more open and vivid experience. At the end, I didn't like the movie, so maybe that IMAX played a part in it. But everyone around me was having a great time, so I recommend seeing the film in IMAX. And that's kind of my last comment before I ask us to rate the movie, unless someone had to say something else.
So one more thing, and then I will wrap up. I promise. Iron Man's suit was outstanding. I love like when it's him versus Thanos and he's somehow holding his own. If I was Tony Stark, I would not take the Infinity Gauntlet off. I'd take the Time Stone, go back in time, so I'm fighting Steve Rogers in Civil War with that suit and kick the shit out of him.
I feel like that's the cat-proof suit. Like his Thanos suit is the cat-proof suit. Like that's the suit of like, just in case I have to fight Steve Rogers again, let's make nanotech and so that I can wrap myself around Captain America and kind of get rid of him.
It wasn't quite bleeding edge armor, because his bleeding edge armor is nanotech, but it's stored inside his cells, so it can like form over the top of him. This was kind of like that, but it was the panel on his chest. That was great. I love how
he could add stuff to it depending on his needs.
Yeah, he was a little bit like Vision, because Vision can sort of shapeshift in that. Like he could form like a big spike hand and all that, which ended up getting stuck through his stomach. But yeah, it was fantastic.
You used the spike for Thanos, but instead you got the spike.
That was a great reversal. I loved it. And something else about the action in this film. I thought it was overall very well done. Granted, the Russo brothers are really good with the whole action scene, but for this kind of being their first big kind of take into the whole let's use CG in everything kind of thing. The fight on Titan between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and Thanos and Iron Man. I thought they had a very nice way of showing and showcasing everyone's powers and not just being a bunch of people doing karate for 20 minutes. It was like, let's use portals, let's use Star-Lord's weapons, let's use Spider-Man's webbing and kicking, and he's flipping around him, and Iron Man is doing very well, by the way, attempting to fight Thanos in a way that made Thanos
if Star-Lord had not screwed the universe the way he did, would have been would have gone very differently.
It was a very nice character moment on Star-Lord's part, that he had to go through kind of the same motions that Tony Stark had to go through in Civil War. It does show a sense of progression. I just wish it was, I wish it was set up more.
Star-Lord's best moment was when he put the grenade on Thanos and then he goes boom, sticks the middle finger up and then jumps
through the hole.
That's a GIF by now, right? That's great.
But the GIF has to be safe for work because it's in a trailer. So he doesn't stick a finger up. He just sticks his fist up, goes boom, and jumps backwards. There's no middle finger.
Yeah.
You know what I found a little strange, though? I found it strange that Thanos knew who Tony Stark was, but he barely even acknowledged Loki. Because remember, Loki used one of his armies in the first Avengers movies.
Well, they do bring that up at the very start. He's talking. He's like, "You consider failure success."
Right, but not enough. Because I remember in the first Avengers, like Thanos' henchman, he specifically says to him, "If you screw this up, we're going to come for you, and it's going to be real bad." And then the big moment when Thanos finally meets him, and all he says is like, yeah, I guess you failed. I'm like, that's it?
He does kill him.
I expected him to immediately be like, you! He barely even acknowledged him.
In the chat, Jesse Holt says the Defenders would have beaten Thanos if they'd entered him in a dark hallway.
I will say this. I think I would have liked to have seen
That's Tickler Bandit.
That is great. That is good.
That's right. When they find anyone in a dark corridor, they always win. Yeah.
And then Iron Fist would have defeated Vitality, and then he's the immortal Iron Fist. James Caan.
That's like the Defenders version of like the mirror dimension. Like, put them in there, and they're done.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I mean, my final thoughts is it was amazing. It was a great movie. It was one of the best movies I've seen this year, and just the enjoyment I had, and I loved that it took risks and the way it ended. I loved that the bad guy wins at the end. That was awesome. So yeah, I can't say that much bad about it.
Yeah. What about you, Trilby?
Yeah, it was hugely ambitious. I can't wait to see what happens next year. The Wakanda and the Titan fights intercut with each other. It's probably the most ambitious action sequence, like set piece, since like Helm's Deep. It was incredibly well done. I loved it. It was an almost like perfect blockbuster for what it was, considering how much it had to do, how many characters I had to balance, and it doesn't quite do it perfectly, but it's still an incredible effort, and I can't wait to see it again, because my cinema is, every time you book a ticket to see it, you get a free poster, and there are 5 of them to get, and I've got the Guardians of the Galaxy one. Now I need to get the Iron Man one. I'm gonna see it so many times.
There's a great one where it's him with the Doctor Strange with the time stone, and I love that single of Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange was the highlight of this movie for me personally.
How cool was Benedict Wong in this film?
Yeah, he was great.
It's only a small role, but he shows up like in the first like 20 minutes, and he's really good. Really enjoying him.
All right, so I guess my closing thoughts here would be I did have fun during a portion of this film. I do think the movie does do some good things. When it hits, it really hits. I just think it flaunters way too much as a film. And then if you want to look at it as what Marvel wants you to be, this kind of big end-all event, it's not that. It's a part 1, and we already talked about why that really bugs me personally. But if you want to judge it as a film, I just think besides the fact that it's an incomplete film, it has so many issues that I don't think they're more than the sum of its parts. I think I used that phrase correctly. That I don't think builds to something that I can consider to be a good film. It's a fun film. I just don't know if it's a very good one.
You are a soulless monster, Trey.
I am.
You are dead inside.
I am interested to see what part 2 will be. I'm interested to see how it's going to play into the whole thing. I would imagine this. I would hope that part 2 will be better, and maybe I'll feel different this time next year. So right now I'm sitting at like a 6. Maybe.
Bye, Matthew, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's heading out. So.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We appreciate you.
So have any of you two seen Isle of Dogs?
I have not. I really want to. I've heard good things.
Okay, so
I'm waiting to play the question intro. What's going on here?
so if I was to say anyone in favor of voting Trey's comments on Infinity War, voting them off the record, say aye. You wouldn't get it.
No.
Aye. And that's some Wes Anderson humor there for those at home wanting some of that.
All right, here's the questions.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
You could ask yourself a question.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Man, I love that intro. I really did.
Yes, so this is the listener question portion of the show, in which case we answer your listener questions here in the chat or wherever you find listener questions. Bandit, I believe the people that donated had some questions. You want to go to those first?
Yep, we'll read the super chats, and that'll give everyone time to type questions if they want to put it in the comments. Just write question in all capitals at the beginning of the sentence. There were a couple early in the show. I'm not sure if we can scroll all the way back up to the beginning of the chat. All right, well, let's take a look at super chat. Some of these we read out as they go. Real Elliot, $5. Thanks, Elliot. He said, "Why do you hate good movies, Trey?" I think we already asked you that, but it's worth asking again. Why do you hate good movies?
Yeah, Trey, why do you hate him for
listening?
0 out of 10?
Why are you the way you are?
Someone did ask me that today when I told them I didn't like. They're like, "Why are you like this?" Someone just asked me that. Listen, I think art is subjective, and everyone's entitled to like whatever they want to like. I know people that didn't like a movie like I know people that don't like The Dark Knight. I think they're idiots, but they don't like it, and you can think the same about me. I don't think Infinity Wars is anywhere near as good as The Dark Knight, but that's just I don't know. I think the way I think. I guess I don't know. I don't hate good movies. By the way, that's an oxymoron. It's whatever. I know it was a joke, but still.
It really does. Yeah. Okay. Justin Edgy Kid That Rants, great username, sent $2. Thanks, mate. And he said, "Hey, pimp, can you make Spider-Man 4? How to do it?"
What, as in Sam Raimi Spider-Man 4?
Yeah, that's Spider-Man 4, the Sam Raimi. Would anyone be interested in that video if I made it? I don't know. I'm still trying to finish my Last Jedi review. That's taken forever. I should probably just hurry up and finish it. Would I make a Spider-Man 4? How to do it? I never ruled out anything. You know, I just doubt whether people would want to see it.
David Snyder just asked, "What did puppies do to me?" I'm sorry. It's just, I love it. I love that I'm the Thanos of the podcast, right? Like I just show up and just ruin everything.
When Trey's gone, half of the puppies will still be alive.
He's going to purge half of our subscribers. There we go.
I'm probably going to lose subscribers for this. Probably watch. People are going to be so angry at me.
Nah, it's fine. It's always good to have like when all three of us love a movie. It's never usually an interesting conversation because that's why I be contrary sometimes. Castleman Reviews sent $2, and he said Spider-Man has a hyphen by the word of Stan Lee.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. That's true. Yeah.
Is that not the way it's always been?
Well, because Stan Lee had to like go on the record or something like a couple of months ago. And also thoughts and well wishes with Stan Lee, who seems to be going through a really rough time at the moment.
Well, I mean, geez, I don't know. Are those allegations true? I don't know. I have not.
His wife passed away a few months ago, and they were together for like 70 years. But after that, apparently, he kind of went into a little bit of a spiral, and his children and like some of his friends are kind of abusing his fame and money to try and get like majority shares in like everything he owns in Marvel for when he inevitably dies. And like, apparently he's been suffering physical and emotional abuse from the people who are meant to be caring for him in his old age. There's a whole Hollywood Reporter thing, and like even Kevin Smith came out on Twitter and was like, Stanley, if you need somewhere safe to stay, you can always stay over at mine.
That's disgusting, really. I mean, like, if anyone's mistreating Stan Lee, blanked on his name for a minute. You're going to have like a lynch mob of Marvel fans. Like,
good luck surviving the internet to try to
grab the pitchforks and torches. Let's find who's responsible for this.
If there's someone that's going to get the time stone in reverse time, it's going to be they're going to use them on Stan Lee. Be like, you know what? You get 2 more years, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Stan Lee, you can come. You can stay here in my flat. We'll make a. It'll be like the Thor video. Okay, so
Stan Lee, how would you do Spider-Man 4?
He would just do James Cameron's 1990 pitch. So I don't know if you've got to say about that.
Ian the Gamer sent $4.99. Thanks, Ian. And he said, "Hi, Bandit. Are you still doing the Vader spin-off? I love your Star Wars writing." Actually, I can tell you guys this because in my writing my Last Jedi review, I think I'm actually done with Star Wars. Like I think I'm done. Like I don't want to spend any more money on Star Wars. I mean, I'll review them. So I mean, I'll see them, but I'm not paying for them. If you know what I mean. But I think like in this
Pirate Star Wars.
not technically. Why would you jump to such a conclusion, Trilby? No, it's like honestly, it's. I think The Last Jedi kind of broke me with Star Wars, and I don't feel hatred towards it. It's just kind of like when you break up with your girlfriend, and it's like you just kind of accept that it's over and you move on, and you're like, I still love you, but it's time we went our separate ways. That's just kind of how I feel, and I think a lot of people feel like that. And I was thinking, because I was actually planning out to do another, like, you know how I redid the prequels, I was going to do that for the new trilogy, and I contacted some of the voice actors and Brizzy voices, different people. And but as I was writing this, I was like, I don't think I can. My heart's just not in it. I was like, I'd rather just
make George Lucas to yourself. Wow. I can't believe
it. I was like, because like I was writing the outline for what the new stories would be, and I was like, I'm just not feeling it. I'd rather just tell a new story. So I'm writing a new story. It's going to be my original, a Bandit original story up on the channel. So
it's gonna be about a guy who runs some kind of video source, and the world's out to get him, and it definitely won't be an autobiographical story.
So to answer your question, Ian the Gamer, am I going to do a Vader spin-off? Probably not. I just don't know if I. Although I suppose a Vader spin-off, Vader's still a good character. I'm still passionate about him. So again, never say never. Sam Heinrich, he sent us 2 super chats. The $25 one, he said, "More videos, love your content. It sucks. YouTube has kind of been terrible. 4IW, what does that mean? 4IW.
For Infinity War.
For Infinity War. I thought it was
the one I read out earlier.
Oh, did you? Okay. I thought it was.
Well, I did because it was such a big donation. I just wanted to acknowledge it.
Oh, that's right. We stopped the show
in case we didn't get to it.
That's right. Well, I may as well finish reading it. Unfortunately, there is no easy fix now. Either most characters come back, leaving it predictable, or not at all. Sucks. Sam Hendricks, his second donation, $5. Thank you, Sam. That's fantastic. He said, Avengers 4 predictions. A theory is Strange knew Star-Lord would do what he did, and it was part of the plan. He did say there was no other way. Actually, we didn't talk about that in spoilers, so thank you for bringing that up, Sam. What do you think Doctor Strange saw, and what do you think is the end game here?
Yeah, I thought it was fairly self-explanatory in the film. You know, there's one combination out of the 14 million that they end up winning, and I guess it was the one where he handed over the time stone. That makes sense to me. Yeah.
But how does that end with them winning?
I would imagine. I guess what it means is maybe they don't all die until some are still left behind. Because I imagine they would all die fighting him if they didn't give him the stone. He would just kill them all fighting. So I think it's the idea that some are left alive after the great dusting of the MCU, which is what I'm going to call it from here on out.
Yeah.
They now have
the great cleaning of the MCU.
Well, they now have the ability to come back and save the day.
And also, to quote the District Attorney of Gotham City, Harvey Dent, things will get darkest just before the dawn.
That's right. I think the end game that Doctor Strange saw could possibly be they can't stop Thanos, but if you give him what he wants, there's a chance he could see the error of his ways later.
Well, that's
because he's a villain, but he's kind of he's a villain, but he's kind of reasonable in a psychopathic way.
Yeah.
And he does have emotions. You could somehow convince him that there's a better way to do things. I could totally see that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And all he has to do is snap his fingers and he can change it all back again. All right. Two last super chats. Oh, we just got a new one.
When he clicked his fingers.
What's that?
When he clicked his fingers at the end of the movie, the Infinity Gauntlet was all burnt and charred. So I'm assuming he can't use that anymore, or can't use the gauntlet.
He uses it to teleport himself to what I imagine is, I don't know if it's Titan or it's some other planet. But he does. Huh?
He went to Pittsburgh to watch the sunset.
He went to Pittsburgh. Yeah, he's sitting next to the Rocky statue in Philadelphia. No, he does. He does use this space stone one more time even before he vanishes. Avengers Endgame wouldn't be a bad title, by the way. Now thinking about it, that wouldn't be a bad title. That would be
a good name, wouldn't it? Yeah. Avengers Endgame. Well, Matthew Mann, we answered this during the show. Matthew Mann sent $5. Thanks, Matthew. I know he's gone now. He said, "What about the shows?" He said, "What would you like remade?" We said either Species or Firefly. Stephen Collin just sent $2. Thank you, Steve. That just came in, and he said, "Hang on." He said, "Thanos in the house." One. Thank you, Stephen. You're a legend.
Speaking in binary.
He's actually kidnapped. You see, when he needs to be let out somewhere, he's just sending in Morse code.
Yeah, the Infinity Gauntlet is inside the house.
Cool. So those are the super chats. Let's cover some of the other questions.
Yeah,
I assume you guys were probably scrolling and looking as I was doing that. Yeah.
Yes, definitely, absolutely.
Awesome. Cool. We're on the same page. Good.
This one's been asked a few times during the live stream. Pajirako says, "Have any of you seen Wisecrack's video on why the Last Jedi fails?"
Yes,
I watched that
not.
this afternoon. I watched it. I watched this afternoon. The main bit I disagree with, because I loved The Last Jedi. I think it's the best Star Wars movie in a very, very long time. I loved it. Yes, the issue that I took with Wisecrack's video is the idea that saying, just because Rey still believes in the Jedi by the end of it, despite most of the movie trying to discredit the Jedi's legacy and their failings in the past, is an issue with the movie. I think it's to do with the idea that we still need legends and we still need heroes to inspire us to do better, as opposed to throwing out everything the Jedi represented, which I thought the film did quite well, especially with everything that Luke does at the end of that movie to scare the First Order and to inspire the rebellion. I thought that was quite clear, but in the Wisecrack video, they seem to either I wouldn't say they misinterpret it because there's really no such thing, but
Yeah.
it's not how I saw the film or its meta commentary on Star Wars as a legacy franchise or Star Wars looking forward. But like I like Wisecrack's video, but for that one I disagree with it.
Yeah, I think
Sorry, I just want to go another way of the chat. Trey went into reverse to make sure the kittens were dead. All right. Oh my god.
you're a living meme, Trey. There you go. No, I think with the Wisecrack video, it's yeah, I agree with them totally. And I was kind of annoyed when that video came out because I was like, oh, I was going to say that in my review, but they beat me to it. Now everyone's going to think I stole that from Wisecrack. But yeah, I said pretty much the same thing in my review, where I was like, with all the chest pounding about how, oh, we kill the past, we're blazing a new trail. At the end of the movie, the universe is exactly the same as it was at the start of the movie, minus Luke Skywalker. Like with all the big kerfuffle about how amazing they are and how they're doing, they don't change anything. That's why it sucks.
Okay. Well, I don't think that's I don't think the universe. I mean, I really don't want this to turn into a Last Jedi defense podcast. What I will say is, in response to what you said, Trilby, I do think if there was one thing I would change about The Last Jedi, it's how it ends. I feel like ending it with Luke looking at the twin suns is a very nice way to end that movie, because it really does end Luke's story, which is essentially what the movie I think is about. And I do like the idea of the themes of heroes and failure and stuff. I just don't see how the broom kid. I get how he symbolizes that. It's so cheesy and it's so weird, and I just that rubbed me the wrong way. But I don't know. And in response to what Bandit said, I think the universe is definitely different. Like, I definitely think the characters are in a different area than they were at the start of the film. I think we know so much more, and we know more about the potential of our heroes and villains' stories than we do at the start of the film. They're no longer just the hero and the villain. They're no longer just these cookie cutter archetypes. They're now both leaning more towards the middle in terms of where they stand in the Force. But I mean, you don't have to feel that way, but that's just how I look at The Last Jedi.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how what happens in Episode 9, and it's like Infinity War. It's hard to see how it fits into the grander narrative, or whether or not the story is able to follow through with the themes presented in Part 1. But we've got Han Solo this month, haven't we? It's technically May now, at least in the UK. It's now May, so this is Han Solo month. Solo, a Star Wars movie. Yay. Yay.
You know, I'm reading all.
Oh, a single clap from the audience. Clap.
You know, because I'm reading all the.
Holden Ehrenreich. He's the one person clapping. Yay.
You know, reading the chat, I'm going to have to update my thumbnail and include Trey driving a car running over kittens.
That just needs to be animated.
This is the meme of the episode, so I'm going to have to put it in the thumbnail now. All right, so I scrolled right up as far as I could because I didn't want to miss any questions. So Tugulian Primus says, question, do you think it would be cool if Ego, Surtur, Dormammu, the Watcher, and the Celestials come together with the heroes to fight Thanos in Avengers 4, thus mirroring the Infinity Gauntlet comic? Yes, that would be amazing. Except I think Ego, the Living Planet, is already dead. Would Dormammu help? He might be scared to help because he might get trapped with the time gem again.
Oh, yeah, because I know Doctor Strange is dead, but maybe in the afterlife, like Doctor Strange can be like, Dormammu, I've come to bargain, and Dormammu's like, oh no, you fucking don't.
He's like, I'm destroying that thing now.
I'm gone.
Yeah, Dormammu's like, I'm out. Nope.
Yeah, no, that'd be good though. That would
be one thing the Soul Stone is able to do. Maybe in order for the Avengers who are dead, in order for them to come back to the land of the living or something, they have to defeat all of the villains from like phase 1 to 3, like Doctor Strange versus Abomination, Falcon versus Guy Pearce Mandarin. I know that might be interesting.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about bringing back, like, Red Skull was a nice way to connect kind of both the start of the universe and kind of bring us. It was a nice connection. It was a nice little Easter egg to have for people, because in my theater, by the way, 8 people clapped at Red Skull. Like 8, there were people that were like, "Huh? Like who?" Like there are people that.
That just doesn't happen in the UK. People don't cheer when characters arrive, and I kind of feel like I'm missing out.
It's a little obnoxious. Like Captain America shows up screen, people are just like, "Yeah, it's Cap." I'm like, so
it seems cheering in the theater seems to be more of an American thing. They don't really do that here in Australia.
It really is.
I wish they did though, to make it more enjoyable. But it probably does get annoying sometimes.
Well, I mean, it's just because like sometimes it works. Like I Am Steve Rogers got an applause, which was a nice moment. But and I guess people that have jumped to questions now have the movie spoiled. But sorry, I don't know. It always bugs me when people clap at every little thing in the movie. But there are big moments, the finale, where people are just like, "Oh my god." The finale, people silent. When people got to credits, it was silent. Not me. I was angry. I yelled out obscenity.
If there was
we better.
I wanted to cheer at Thor arriving in Wakanda when he arrives with Rocket. That's when I would have cheered.
We better get back to these questions because there's quite a few of them. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. And I know it's already probably 4 a.m. where Trilby is.
Correct.
That's right. Okay, Thomas K96 says, "What are your thoughts on M. Night Shyamalan's crossover Glass?" I am weirdly psyched for that. I am really looking forward to seeing that.
Split was really good.
And it's one of my favorite. He's actually, because you remember Bruce Willis's character in that is he touches people and he sees what evil thing they did, but because of the Split character, he's got multiple personalities. I thought if Bruce Willis touches him, he'll only get the memories of whatever that personality previously did.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like a good kryptonite, for Bruce Willis's character. And plus, they're both strong. And it was set up at the end of the first movie. What was it called? The first movie?
Unbreakable.
Yeah. It was set up at the end there. How the mom is looking at the cartoon. She's telling Bruce Willis, there's 2 kinds of villains. There's the villain who fights, the soldier villain who fights with his fist, and there's the villain who fights with his mind. So now we have 2 of them, and if they team up together to take on Bruce Willis, it's going to be really epic. I'm really, really looking forward to that.
They showed some footage at CinemaCon a few days ago, and apparently that went down really well.
Yeah, I had never seen Unbreakable in its entirety until maybe 2 months ago or so, and I watched it. It's really quite something. It's quite a very good film. I was very moved. The score by James Newton Howard is second to none. It's a fantastic film score. I loved it so much. And for it to be a film about superheroes, it's very subdued because I guess it had to be at that time. And then Split comes out and is this really well put together thriller that is a stealth supervillain origin story, which was a nice kind of dodge. And it helps. And it doesn't come out of nowhere either. They do set it up when they talk about people that are able to do things because of with their abilities, like the woman who, I think what she said, she was blind and then she could see all of a sudden, and people, and then he ends up crawling on walls and stuff. And they do set that stuff up only to have the massive payoff be that he is a super villain, which I thought was really cool. And I gotta no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and Shyamalan's career, what a twist!
Yeah, did it out, did you?
Come back like that. So good job, Shyamalan.
Yes.
All right. So Toasty Danny says, question: who would you like to see as the new face of the MCU post Avengers 4? Yeah, if it's not Tony Stark anymore, would it America, I guess?
Captain Marvel?
Yeah, it's either going to be Captain Marvel or Black Panther, probably. But the problem with Black Panther is that she's not very interesting. So,
of course, yes. That's right, yes. It would have to be.
Well, I'm just saying that
because of the diversity, right?
No, it's also because Black Panther is the highest grossing superhero movie of all time.
That's true. That's true. I did like it.
Is it? Yeah.
Yes, it beat the Avengers, didn't it?
Did it really? Yeah. I haven't watched it since.
Let me. I'll fact check that, but I'm pretty sure.
I understood 1.5 billion, but yeah,
maybe domestically.
I enjoyed Black Panther. I didn't review it because I was too scared to review it because I did have some negative things to say about it.
I didn't like it very much, Bennett. So we agree there.
It's 200 million behind Avengers worldwide, but domestically, it is the highest grossing superhero movie ever.
Wow,
That's
man.
cool. Yeah, it did very well in theaters. And if it's, well, I'm not saying because of diversity. I'm saying it because Captain Marvel, because she naturally becomes a leader in the comic books, and Black Panther because Black Panther made bajillions of dollars. But another, my hope is that Doctor Strange becomes the face of the MCU because he has kind of become the leader of the Avengers and other comic book storylines. You also have the prospect of people like Spider-Man kind of becoming the new face. Which I feel like it's already sort of happening anyways. Like people at my school, all they're talking about is Spider-Man and how much they love him. So I could see that becoming a big thing. I don't necessarily think Thor might die in Avengers 4, by the way. I feel like Thor might be here to stay for a little bit longer.
Bold choice, but Groot. Groot becomes the leader of the Avengers and becomes the face of the MCU. Imagine Vin Diesel trying to negotiate Robert Downey Jr. money.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
I want $50 million per word.
So, James Ken says, question, do you watch Deep Space Nine? Yes, I do. That's how I understood the Gul Dukat did nothing wrong reference. Yes, Deep Space Nine. I'm a defender of Deep Space Nine. I think it's pretty good. Do you guys
here's a fun story about that. So I if you guys do not know, I did work in the theater. Some have called me a very dramatic person. I know, shocking. And I was talking to one of my theater directors, and she was prepping for like a show we were about to put on. And she just like starts dropping these references and I'm like, what is that? She's like, oh, it's Deep Space Nine. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I love Deep Space Nine. It's my favorite series. I know Voyager's okay, and Next Generation is kind of the classic, but Deep Space Nine's my favorite. I was just like, what? She's never talked about it before. And then I know her. She's just like dropping character names, character references. So there's someone out there besides these two that love it, guys. And I've never seen it a day in my life, but yeah.
And I've never watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anything about
it. Pilot John Grant says, best video game movie. I had high hopes for the Tomb Raider movie, but it wasn't all that good.
I thought it was okay for what it was.
The answer? Let me ask you a question. I haven't seen it, but how's the answer not Prince of Persia? I mean, I get the problems with it. Not
because Professor Layton and the Eternal Diva.
What?
You know the Professor Layton game series.
Yeah.
They made an anime movie that's like a feature length released in theaters in Japan movie. It's really good, and that is the answer. Objectively, the best video game movie is Professor Layton and the Eternal Diva.
I suppose. But then again, I feel like Wreck-It Ralph is the best Donkey Kong movie that never got made. So I mean, who's to say? You know, who's to
Pokemon 3, the third Pokemon movie, is pretty good.
The Yu-Gi-Oh movie is pretty sick, but Yu-Gi-Oh is a card game. Pokemon's also a card game, so I don't count that. Jumanji was great. The new Jumanji that came out, I had a blast with the new Jumanji.
Yeah, I still need to watch it. It comes out on DVD here next month, next week, so I'm gonna check it out.
I like Jumanji too. Yeah, and
Jumanji was very fun.
Technically, that is a video game movie, isn't it? Yeah.
But if you're talking about some video games, it hasn't. The best one hasn't come out yet. I mean, I think if we're going by the low standards of like 5s and below, Prince of Persia was pretty fun, I guess.
Yeah, it was alright.
I haven't seen it in 4 years, but yeah.
So Grady Child said, what do you think the title of Avengers 4 is going to be? According to the Russos, it's a big spoiler for the film. What are your best guesses? I liked your idea of Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
But if it's a big spoiler, maybe Avengers Soul Gem Ex Machina or something? I don't know.
Avengers all dying.
Avengers are dead. They're all dead. They're staying dead.
Probably Resurrection or something that implies that half the universe died.
Oh, if it's Avengers Resurrection, I'm fucking gonna flip out. Because that's the most generic thing. Avengers Deep Space Nine.
Shall we drop in the first F-bomb of the podcast?
Oh, no, I think I've spawned earlier. I can't remember.
Oh, truly.
Yeah. That's all right. That's the joys of life.
It'll probably be something with about avenging something, right?
Avengers Genesis. But as in Genesis, as in Terminator Genesis.
Avengers Genesis. So they're just going to restart the whole universe. There you go.
Avengers Revelations. Someone who's put in the chat.
Avengers I Am Groot.
Yeah. Nathan Snyder said, what did puppies do to you, Trey? Very good.
Okay. Fun fact, right? So I had this. My sister had this dog, right? And this is just a random tangent. We're just talking at this point.
I was like, you didn't actually have to answer that, but okay, go for it.
and
He's committed to the bit.
I loved the dog, right? And I snapped a really cool picture and posted it on my Instagram. And then like 20 minutes later, he ate up my laptop charger, which Bandit, you know about. I don't know if you remember that story. I don't know. We may not have been doing the podcast at that point. I can't remember if we had started it at that point. This was late 2015. Yeah, and so he destroyed my laptop charger. He chewed it up, and so there was a bit, and then I got a new charger, but the charger wasn't necessarily super compatible with my other laptop, so it kind of blew off the battery and overcharged it too much, so the battery kind of faltered and fell apart, and it really could only work when it was plugged in. Yeah, so if you're asking me, that's the last thing a puppy did to me, I suppose, was chew up my laptop charger. Yes.
Well, Hollow Man says, question, where exactly did the Soul Stone come from? Ultron was kind of a cluster. Bleep. I don't really remember. Well, the Soul Stone, it came from Red Skull. Red Skull had it in the first one, grabbed it, shot him into space, and he was guarding
That's not true. That was the Space Stone.
Yeah, that was the Tesseract. That was that blasted him to another dimension. And it's like comically under-explained how he got there, how he knows this information, how he's alive, and what the Soul Stone does.
What have you been eating?
Oh, man. That makes no sense now, because I assumed he grabbed, that was the Soul Gem, not the Tesseract he grabbed, and that's why he was guarding the Soul Gem. Yeah, why was he? No. Why did the Tesseract send him? I don't know. That's a good question, Hollow Man.
Yeah, it's a great question. The movie's just like, don't think about it. No, we're thinking about it.
James Kent says, favorite Indiana Jones movie? Probably the first one for me.
Last Crusade.
The Adventures of Tintin.
Hey, good answer. The Mummy Returns.
Last Crusade.
Last Crusade's great. Last Crusade's great.
Second place goes to Tom Cruise's The Mummy. No, it doesn't.
Uncharted 2.
Yeah, the Tomb Raider reboot. Last Crusade. Last Crusade. I love. What's his name? He was James Bond.
Sean Connery.
How did I forget his name? Yeah, I love Sean Connery in the film. The interplay with him and Harrison Ford is terrific. That's my favorite, and the tank sequence is one for the ages. Yeah.
Sorry, I was reading the chat. I agree with you, Chilty. I was paying attention.
We did get a super chat. Stephen Collin with $2. Thank you very much, Stephen. Avengers 4 better have Korg and Valkyrie. Yeah, hopefully they did survive to fight another day.
Yes, I was worried about that.
Can this be Avengers 4? You better have Korg and Valkyrie.
Avengers, I made a rock, but don't let that intimidate you.
Avengers, not enough pamphlets.
Unless like Avengers Ride of the Valkyries, I don't know.
Yeah. Wow, there's a lot of questions. We might need to just randomly get them.
Okay. I don't.
Okay,
I can.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You think we're good with questions? Do you want to see if we can find some more here? We could wrap this up here.
So
someone said Wakanda forever. Steve Collins said that. As I was scrolling down, the little down arrow was blocking it, and I thought it said Wakanda never. That's another meme. We could start that one.
Imagine if the next Avengers was called Avengers Thanos Forever, Wakanda Never.
Avengers Thanos chills on his porch. It's just him reading the newspaper. Half the universe wiped out. It's like, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
No, but I know it's like 4:20 in the morning here, but I don't mind staying up later to do questions. So don't feel the need to stop on my account or anything. But
I'm moving over to Facebook and see if there are any interesting questions here. The Wisecrack question was asked on the Facebook page.
Actually, I think we've only got a couple left because I'm scrolling up and down. Yeah, I think there's only a few left, so we can just finish them off.
Okay. Unless there is any on the Facebook page, which Trey's currently checking.
Cool. All right. Tooligan Primus says, I'm writing a time travel comic. I have 3 issues completed so far. Would you be willing to read and edit / give honest and blunt criticism for? Sure. Yeah, Tooligan. My email's banditincorporated@gmail.com. I can't edit it yet because I haven't finished my course, so I don't know how to edit properly yet. But when I finish my course, yeah, I can do that for you. Yeah, so banditincorporated@gmail.com. It's attached to the channel. Next question. Did you have a question in mind you want to read, Trilby?
Not one that I could find. There was one because I mentioned something on my Facebook page the other day about how Deku from My Hero Academia is a better Spider-Man than the MCU Spider-Man at the moment. But if we do homework next week, I'll talk about that because you know how you recommended One Punch Man like ages ago, and that's how I got into it. If you like that, I recommend you watch My Hero Academia, which is another anime about superheroes, but it approaches the material from a completely different perspective. And yeah, if we do homework in the next episode, I'll elaborate more on that. But yeah, you should really check that out.
Sure, totally. Yeah. All right, well that's it for questions. I'm scrolling up and down. I think we answered them all. Yes, totally.
Has Trey disappeared forever? I think he may have done. We've lost Trey.
He might have muted. Okay, he might have muted his microphone.
For 2 solid minutes, I'm like, can they hear me? Because I read a question on Facebook. And then there was silence. And then Bandit started saying his question. I'm like, Bandit isn't usually the one to ignore me unless he's very upset. So he probably just didn't hear me. But tell you what, because we are running probably we're over 2 hours at this point. Let's end the show here. So with that, thank you all for watching. Thank you to the guys who have
outro music. Yes.
Outro music. Thank you to the guys who have stuck with us, the guys and gals that stuck with us here. Thank you very much. We appreciate you guys. Thank you to all who donated in the super chat. That was exceptional. You guys are awesome. Chilby, where can people find you?
You can find me on my website at www.troby.com, where I'm currently making my way through a back catalogue of all the reviews I've just not done over the past year, so more regular content's going up there. You can find me on my own solo podcast, the Film Brits podcast, and you can find me on YouTube at Trilby Reviews, and also Mr. TARDIS Reviews for TV and Doctor Who content. Bandit, where can everyone find you apart from this channel?
People can find me, apart from right here, you can find me on YouTube and Twitter as Bandit Incorporated, and so are we doing this as a regular thing, guys?
I'd be up for that.
I'm down for it.
If it's a live stream, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So we'll be back every Monday. I think it's 6 p.m. LA time.
Yes.
We always pick at prime time in America because that's where most
2 o'clock in the morning UK time.
Oh, and thank you so much for the super chats, all you guys, and for the fun and the laughs and all the cool comments. You guys are awesome, and we will see you same time next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, how do I hang up? Where's the...
You can follow me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Podcast Media.